I woke up as the real young master of the Johnson family the next day. The fake young master, Liam, saw only the two of us in the hall. He curled his lips and slowly walked over, his eyes full of provocation. "Ethan, you framed me so many times, and you still won't get out of the Johnsons' house. I really underestimated you." His gaze gradually turned vicious. "You brat raised in the countryside. Why did you come back? Why didn't you just die out there?" After saying that, he suddenly raised his hand and slapped his own pale cheek hard. Smack! A crisp slap echoed through the living room. Smack, smack, smack. He slapped himself several more times in succession. Half of his face immediately swelled red. Fake young master Liam's eyes instantly reddened, brimming with tears. He broke into a terrified, sobbing wail. "Ethan, I know I was wrong. Stop hitting me. I won't do it again. Boo-hoo." Almost at the same moment, chaotic footsteps thundered down from the stairs. "What's going on?" "Liam." Margaret's anxious voice sounded as she clicked down the stairs in her high heels. "What's all this noise?" George barked angrily right behind her. Sister Olivia, butler Arthur, and maid Diana also rushed into the living room at the sound. Liam cried even louder. "Ethan, I know you can't stand me. It's my fault. I shouldn't have occupied your identity all these years. You can beat or scold me, and I won't fight back. Please don't drive me out of the Johnsons." As soon as he said that, everyone in the Johnson family's gaze toward me changed. They all glared at me angrily. Sister Olivia stared at me, chest heaving with rage. As I thought, a little beast raised in the countryside. "It seems we've been too good to you, which has let you get away with targeting Liam time and again." George pointed at me with trembling fingers. "Bastard. Kneel and apologize to Liam at once." Margaret held Liam to her chest, tears falling as if her heart were breaking. "Liam, you're just too kind. That's why Ethan bullies you." Even maid Diana and butler Arthur cast vicious looks at me. I suddenly smiled. The original plot flashed through my mind. This was a melodramatic novel set in a freezing end-of-the-world scenario about the real and fake young masters. The original owner, Ethan, was the real young master, only recognized by the Johnsons during college. He had grown up in an orphanage and desperately longed for a family's warmth. After returning to the Johnsons, he tried to win over every member of the family. When Sister Olivia had stomach problems, he thoughtfully learned to cook nourishing porridge to help her recuperate. George wanted to hire Ethan's college mentor, Professor, as a technical consultant. Ethan delivered gifts to the professor every day until he agreed to come out of retirement. Margaret liked roses. He cultivated all kinds of rare rose varieties in the courtyard just to please Margaret. Liam watched everything. For the sake of inheriting the Johnson family's billions, he began a series of frame-ups. First, he deliberately fell down the stairs and accused Ethan of pushing him. Liam curled up on the ground, smashing his forehead, blood continuously seeping out. His face was pale, tears dropping one by one. "Don't blame Ethan. It was my own carelessness." Ethan definitely didn't do it on purpose. In an instant, all the Johnsons' gazes turned toward Ethan. George and Margaret looked at him with disappointment in their eyes. "It wasn't me." Ethan hurriedly protested, but no one believed him. "If it wasn't you, then who else?" His sister Olivia glared venomously at Ethan. "It was just the two of you earlier." "Are you saying Liam purposely fell by himself?" "Ethan, how can you be so vicious?" Typical of someone raised in the countryside, utterly lacking in class. Margaret cried out of pity. "Ethan, Liam has been obedient and well-behaved since he was little. How can you be so thoughtless?" George's face turned ashen, anger barely contained in his eyes. "I never expected you'd do something so cruel to your own brother." No one believed Ethan. All his explanations sounded weak and futile. That time Ethan was punished to kneel all night. No dinner, and no one even thought to look in on him. Later, Liam purposely lost the $1 million watch Margaret had given him, then accused Ethan of stealing it. He knelt feigning sorrow, pleading for the original owner. "Don't blame Ethan. He never had nice things growing up. Please, Mom and Dad, spare Ethan this once." Ethan trembled with anger, unable to speak for himself. I didn't I really didn't go into his room. He's slandering me. But Liam cowered behind Margaret, sniffling. Ethan, I know you don't like me. I can give you everything else. But that was Mom's birthday gift to me on my 18th. Enough. George slammed the table so hard the teacup clattered. Ethan, that watch was found under your bed. At this point, you still want to lie? Margaret hugged Liam, disappointment indescribable in her eyes. Ethan, if you wanted the watch, you could have asked Mom, but you can't steal? Olivia's gaze was icy, full of disgust. There's no petty thief like you in the Johnson family. What a disgraceful specimen. Ethan, you're not worthy of being my brother. From now on, my only true brother is Liam. Ethan was confined for a week. Every day, Olivia and Liam would go to the basement to torment him for fun. When he was finally released, he was battered and barely alive. Fortunately, his will to live was strong, and he survived. Even so, Ethan never thought of leaving the Johnsons. He was certain the family was only temporarily deceived by the fake young Master Liam. One day, George and Margaret would see Liam's true colors. In the original book, this time Liam slapped himself and framed the original owner. He was flogged all night by George with a whip. The next day, George took the whole Johnson family on a trip to Coral Island, leaving Ethan behind alone. Ethan began having recurring dreams about the arrival of an icy apocalypse. The world frozen, civilization and order completely collapsed. At first he paid it no mind, but the details in the dreams corresponded to reality down to the smallest point. To protect his family, he frantically called George and Margaret, trembling as he described everything in the dream. He almost begged them to come back immediately and stockpile supplies to prepare for the end times. George and Margaret only thought he was raving. Ethan, aren't you just jealous that we took Liam out to play? Is there a limit to how much you can make a scene? Don't force me to come back and commit you to a mental hospital. Sure enough, as Ethan had said, the temperature continued to drop day by day. Even the numbers matched exactly, not a degree off. A storm of panic surged through the Johnson family. They finally lost their composure. A planned 2-week trip was cut short. They hurried back a week early. Over the next week, the Johnsons frantically retrofitted the villa and hoarded supplies to face the apocalyptic crisis. It was all because of Ethan's warning that the Johnsons could cope calmly in the bitterly cold end times. Seeing Ethan regain the family's attention, the fake young master started acting up again. Repeating his tricks, he tried 3 or 4 times to frame the original Ethan. The Johnsons flew into a rage. Ethan, you really are an ungrateful ingrate. After everything, we even felt indebted to you. George was seething. Get out, you little beast. Get out of the Johnson house right now. Our Johnson family will not tolerate a vile scourge with your character. Olivia screamed. Margaret held Liam, turned her face away, not even willing to glance at him. Ethan looked at each unfamiliar, vicious face in the family. In that moment, he finally realized. The Johnsons were not his warm harbor, not the home of his soul, but a hell colder than the frozen end of the world. Under Liam's triumphant gaze, a broken-spirited Ethan was brutally dragged out of the door by the Johnsons. Like trash, he was tossed into a frozen hell at minus 100 degrees. He was soon frozen into an ice sculpture, his eyes unclosed in death. The original owner begged and groveled for his family and ended up dying miserably. Now that I've transmigrated into this book, these beasts won't survive the end times. Thinking that, and seeing the murderous looks they all shot at me, I suddenly laughed. My laughter sounded unusually abrupt in the tense villa hall. Sister Olivia grew angrier and spat curses at me. Ethan, you hit Liam and you can still laugh? We should never have brought you back. Better to have left you to die out there. To deal with these contemptible people, physical measures were necessary. I slapped her hard across that face written all over with malice and cruelty. Bitch, are you done? Do I owe you anything? Olivia screamed, staggered, and fell sideways, knocking over a huge European antique vase. With a bang it shattered. She clutched her swollen cheek, blood trickling from the corner of her mouth, eyes full of disbelief. The entire hall fell silent. Everyone was stunned. I gave them no time to react. Under a parade of shocked, furious, frightened stares, I lunged at the fake young master, grabbed him, and smashed his head down onto the table. You like pretending to be fragile, don't you? Hood, hood, hood. His forehead swelled instantly, blood spraying. Damn it. I hate fake sweet girls the most. Diana screamed and lunged to grab my arm. Her usual flattering smile was replaced by outraged shock. The little beast has revolted. How dare you hit Mr. Liam? Let go this instant. My eyes went cold. I didn't loosen my grip on Liam's hair. I swung my other hand and slapped Diana's aged face straight across. The slap rang crisp and loud. Diana was struck and spun half a turn, collapsing to the ground, wailing repeatedly. You old bitch, who the hell are you to speak here? I spat. Almost at the same time, Butler Arthur stormed over with a dark face, reaching out to grab my shoulder. Mr. Ethan, you're far too presumptuous. Stop this at once. Get lost. Old man. I showed no mercy. My core tightened and I drove a boot hard into Arthur's chest. Thud, a muffled sound. Arthur flew back like a kite with a broken string, slamming heavily into the wall behind him. He slid down the wall, doubled over on the floor, clutching his chest and wailing in pain. In moments I had taken down 4 people in succession. My strikes were decisive and vicious. No hesitation. Everyone in the hall was utterly stunned. They looked at me with an unprecedented sense of unfamiliarity and fear. The country bumpkin they'd always thought weak, pathetic, and easy to bully now exuded a fierce, murderous aura. How could this be? Is this still the same Ethan? I let go and watched Liam, moaning in pain and covered in blood, slide to the floor like a dead dog with a dull thud. Margaret was distraught, crying as she rushed over to check on Liam's injuries. George trembled with rage and bellowed, You wretch! Are you insane? Today I'll beat you to death. He snatched up a nearby golf club and, with a whoosh of air, swung at my head. I shifted my body, grabbed the club firmly, and kicked him flying. Shock! Everyone present was once again agape, speechless. He even struck his own father? Margaret, forgetting Liam, hurried to help George, crying as she looked at me. Ethan, how did you become like this? Are you really mad? What sin have I committed? George's aged face flushed dark, and he pointed at me, cursing. You unfilial beast, you even hit your father? If I'd known, I would have let you die out there. I toyed with the golf club in my hand and smiled mockingly. Have you forgotten? I am of the Johnson family's direct bloodline, the biological son. If I'm an animal, then what are you? You. George clutched his swollen chest, so furious he almost spat blood, grinding out, This is outrageous. Call the police. I disown you as my son. I'll have you rot in prison. Olivia immediately pulled out her phone and shouted in agreement. Yes, yes, call the police. I don't have him as a brother. That little beast doesn't deserve to be my brother. I remained calm and slowly took out my phone. I cast the surveillance video they'd filmed of their abuse, already downloaded yesterday, onto the big screen. On the footage, Olivia pouring basin after basin of ice water over the original owner's head, laughing as he shivered from the cold. Beat him. You hit him. I'll take the blame if something happens. Liam, holding a thin embroidery needle, grinned wildly as he drove it into the front and back of the original owner's chest. Ethan, does it hurt? Who told you to come back? This is your fate. Diana cracked a whip repeatedly on the curled-up back, cursing all the while. You little beast. You think you can compete with Mr. Liam for favor? Arthur stood by, holding me down. Hit the point. Teach this little beast a lesson. Let him know who the real young master of the Johnsons is. I shrugged off my shirt, revealing a body covered in bruises and wounds. The air in the entire hall froze in an instant. How is this possible? How could this happen? Margaret looked at the wounds covering my body. She clutched her mouth, eyes wide with disbelief. Large tears fell. Of course, I had the surveillance footage that Liam used to slander me before. I just hadn't wanted to reveal it yet. I would save it for the decisive moment to land a fatal blow. Olivia held her phone, her hand poised to dial the police, frozen in midair. Her face went pale. Liam, Diana, and Arthur, moaning on the floor, instinctively fell silent. Their gazes darted away. They dared not meet my eyes. Call them. I stepped forward with a golf club. My voice wasn't loud, but it struck like thunder, making them tremble to their cores. Why aren't you calling? Mr. Johnson, Miss Olivia? Weren't you going to make me rot in jail? I pointed at the screen where the footage looped. Then I indicated the numerous wounds on my body and sneered coldly. Illegal detention, intentional injury. The evidence is conclusive. Come on, do you want me to call the police for you? I feigned reaching for the phone in Olivia's hand. She screamed in fright and snatched the phone behind her. She backed away repeatedly, like a frightened fawn. Watching them, I smiled even more happily. Olivia, if I post these videos online, let everyone see how the true young master of the Johnson family was treated. What will your business partners, the media fawning over you, and the public think of you, Olivia? What will they think of the Johnson family? And no, Olivia's voice trembled, her previous arrogance gone. She tried to defend herself. We treated you like this only because you always targeted Liam, didn't you? I scoffed and countered. Where's the evidence? You say I bullied Liam. Produce the evidence. Olivia glowered at me, grinding her teeth in fury. Liam said himself. Would he lie? I laughed louder, full of mockery. Olivia, you said so much, but you have no evidence, do you? Olivia. George saw me growing more triumphant, and his face turned ashen with fury. He wanted to shout at me, but when his eyes landed on the footage of Diana brandishing the whip and the dense wounds on my body, all his words got stuck in his throat. He couldn't speak for a long time. My return to the family had been publicly acknowledged by the media back then. He knew this better than anyone. If those videos got out, public opinion would severely damage Johnson Enterprises' century-old reputation. It would be a disaster for Johnson Enterprises. Margaret crumpled to the ground, sobbing. Her look toward me was complicated, shock, guilt, and a panic that she had lost control. Ethan, I'm sorry, it's all my fault. I didn't know. I didn't know they dare treat you like that. You didn't know? I cut her off without hesitation, my tone full of derision. Mrs. Margaret, you did not know. You just didn't want to know. In your heart, this son who grew up in the countryside could never compare to the foster son you carefully groomed. Could he? Mrs. Margaret, I've been at the Johnsons for 2 years, living in the servants' quarters. Liam gets $300,000 a month for living expenses. I get $300 a month. Surely you knew that. Margaret, I watched her face, shocked and drained of color. Of course, you can never wake someone who's pretending to sleep. I turned and walked to Liam. I struck his head with a golf club. And you, my dear little brother, don't think this matter ends so easily, I said. With a loud bang, I smashed the golf club down hard on the glass coffee table next to him. The table shattered into pieces, fragments flying everywhere. Everyone jumped. Liam trembled all over, wetness spreading in his crotch, the metallic stench of blood and urine filling the hall, making people nauseous. Trash, I said, disgustedly withdrawing the club, then cast a cold look around the room. Remember, from today on, none of you better come bothering me. Saying that, I dragged the golf club and turned, climbing the stairs step by step. It was a while before Liam's aggrieved sobs and the Johnsons' quiet comforts came up behind me. The next morning, I stood at the window watching the whole Johnson family leave with their luggage. Diana and Arthur followed. They all deliberately lowered their voices and tacitly didn't mention me, pretending I didn't exist in the house. Margaret held Liam with motherly concern. Liam, don't be sad. It's your mother's fault for not protecting you. Didn't you always want to go to Coral Island? We'll take you out to relax. I watched them from behind the curtain with a cold look. Margaret kept soothing Liam in whispers. Olivia chimed in, and George directed the driver and Arthur to load the luggage onto the car. Just like the original plot. After last night's scene, they chose not to see taking their favorite fake young master on a trip to Coral Island to recuperate, leaving me alone at home. Exactly what I wanted. I watched their luxury convoy slowly drive out of the villa and disappear down the road. A slight curve tugged at the corner of my mouth. I turned without hesitation and took out my phone. After thinking for a moment, I decided not to post the video that framed and slandered me online for now. After the extreme cold apocalypse, the Johnsons would only have me left as the sole heir. Tarnishing the Johnson name wouldn't benefit me. First, I took hair samples from Liam, Diana, and Arthur's rooms and expedited paternity tests. Then I called the phone number I had found last night. Hello, is this the secondhand pickup service? Yes. Clearance. The villa is getting renovated. Everything inside, the furniture, appliances, decorations, anything that can be moved, I'm selling. Today. Right now. If the price is right, take it away immediately. Next, I contacted a secondhand jewelry buyer in the neighboring city. If I used local vendors, they'd likely know George and Margaret. If inquiries reached them, they might return and ruin my plan. George once bought Margaret an $80 million angel heart necklace. It's probably still in the safe, whose code is their wedding anniversary. Luckily, I just finished reading that book recently. Those details were burned into my memory. After hanging up, I looked around my extremely humble bedroom. Outside the window was the garden the previous owner had tended for 2 years. The sun shone warmly, peaceful, but I knew that in half a month this place would become an icebound hell. Time was running out. Soon, the fleet from the secondhand furniture recycling market swept into the Johnson family's villa in full force. The Johnson villa was a standalone house. There were no neighbors around, which saved a lot of trouble. Under my direction, the workers descended like locusts and began emptying everything in this luxurious villa. That $1 million dining table George had personally ordered from overseas, taken away. Margaret's limited edition piano collection, carried off. Olivia's favorite French Rococo-style cherry wood frame sofa, gone too. Smart furniture, collectible antique pieces, all cleared out. Before long, the second-hand jewelry dealers showed up, fashionably late. The designer jewelry and bags in Olivia's and Margaret's walk-in closets, all appraised. Liam's room full of game consoles, figurines, and walls of limited edition sneakers, not a single one left. At first, the jewelry dealers were terrified when they saw the angel's heart. They refused to take it no matter what. That was until I produced family photos taken in the villa and the household registration book. I also showed my ID, completed the paperwork, and signed the agreements. Only then did they gradually calm down. After a whole day's work, everything saleable in the Johnson villa was sold, except the air conditioners. I didn't even spare the cookware. I had tampered with those air conditioners so they would break down after a short time, to avoid them coming back and replacing them with brand new ones. Better to leave them something to enjoy later. I also installed pinhole cameras in every corner of the villa. I watched $120 million hit my phone and laughed like a pig. The sunset stretched my shadow long. I took one last look at the old Johnson house before striding away. Building a safe house and stockpiling supplies could wait until tomorrow. That night, I went straight to the largest dealership in Bay City and paid cash to take home a top-of-the-line performance SUV. Immediate pickup, expedited paperwork. Then I went to the most upscale mall and bought myself a full set of designer clothes. I also bought a $1 million watch. In the evening, I sat in the most luxurious revolving rooftop restaurant in Bay City and ordered a huge seafood spread. I sat by the window. Before me was a table covered with blue king crab, Australian rock lobster, red grouper, bluefin tuna, and a bottle of wine priced at $100,000. In my past life, I was just a 9-to-5 workhorse. These jaw-dropping prices for seafood were things I'd only seen others eat on short videos. Now it was finally my turn. The fresh flavors exploded on my tongue, leaving a delicious aftertaste. I closed my eyes and savored it for a while. No rush, eat slowly. Time was plenty. After eating and drinking well, I had a bath. I booked 9 girls in one go. 8 gave me massages. The prettiest one was the one I massaged myself. I returned to the presidential suite on the top floor of the hotel and lay on the soft, large bed. I opened my phone. The family group chat had 99 plus unread messages. Liam was spamming the chat with hundreds of photos. Liam wearing designer swim trunks, showing off a lean upper body. He had bandages wrapped around his head and looked like a monkey. Blue sea and sky, beautiful scenery. He kept posing on the yacht with a big smile. Sometimes he snuggled up to Margaret. The pride in his eyes almost spilled out of the screen. Olivia was in a bikini swimming in the sea. Her figure was okay, just big-chested and not very bright. Rarely photogenic George had cooperated and taken several shots. His expression was still somewhat serious, but his posture was relaxed. In the corner of the photos, Arthur and Diana kept their eyes on Liam, full of pride and affection. Liam sent a voice message. "Today was so much fun. Thank you, Mom and Dad. Our family being together, neat and whole, is the happiest thing. Margaret, Liam baby, as long as you're happy. Mom and Dad will always love you. Kiss, Olivia. My Liam is the best. Much better than some unlucky things. Ugh." George and Olivia sent an angry emoji. "When you're happy, can you not be a killjoy?" Olivia sent a cheeky, tongue-out emoji. I couldn't be bothered with them and just turned my phone off. Laugh now. In half a month, you'll be the ones crying. After breakfast that morning, I contacted the real estate agent right away. I bought the Blue Ridge Mountain Hot Spring Villa. I had checked for a long time. Other places' hot springs were all artificial. Only Blue Ridge Mountain had natural hot springs. With the extreme cold apocalypse coming, a villa with a fireplace, heating, air conditioning, and the ability to soak in natural hot springs would be the ultimate luxury. There are only 5 villas on the whole Blue Ridge Mountain, all unbelievably luxurious. One was for sale, and the owners of the other 3 villas were abroad. That would leave only one neighbor, relatively safer. The Yunlan Villa was priced at $55 million US. I didn't hesitate and paid the full amount that day. Wearing a short-sleeved shirt, I stood on the villa's rooftop and overlooked the entire Bay City. The weather was strange. The sky was washed blue, not a cloud in sight. It was almost December. The sun was scorching by day, and the high could reach over 30 degrees. It felt very abnormal. But only I knew that this warm weather was the last heat wave before the extreme cold apocalypse. I directly contacted the top renovation team from the neighboring city. If the extreme cold apocalypse arrived and transportation was cut off, those workers would never be able to cross the city to find me. I had them rebuild 3 walls and move the outdoor natural hot spring indoors. They wrapped it with the best insulating nanomaterials to guarantee it wouldn't cool in extreme conditions. The windows were removed one by one and replaced with thickened, bulletproof, blast-resistant vacuum multilayer glass. The walls were thickened with frost-resistant concrete and filled inside with top-grade insulation. Its thermal insulation could make the inside and outside of the wall into 2 different worlds. All villa entrances, including vents, were replaced with thickened premium steel doors with built-in insulation layers. The locks on the villa's front and back doors were mechanical locks of the highest security level, so secure that even explosives might not breach them. In the villa's main hall, I had 2 European-style fireplaces built. The flues were specially designed by professionals, so smoke exhausted smoothly and cold air wouldn't blow back in. The entire renovation would normally take at least 15 days. I paid double the rush fee. The workers were curious about my odd requirements. They'd never taken on a renovation that had to be fortress impregnable and resort comfortable at the same time, and so urgently. But with double overtime pay, no one asked questions. Finally, it was completed thoroughly after 10 days. After inspection confirmed there were no issues, I cheerfully settled the final payment. Indeed, having money really works. At this time, the weather was still insanely hot. Experts were grandstanding about global warming in front of the media. We can see that this winter has an extremely rare, sustained, abnormally high temperature phenomenon. This rings the bell again for humanity about global warming. I couldn't be bothered to listen to his nonsense and shut off the video. I opened the family chat again. Olivia had posted a video. The footage showed the night view of Coral Island Beach. The Johnson family was hosting a grand birthday party by the sea for the fake young master, even inviting many guests to attend. Liam wore a white haute couture suit and a birthday crown, surrounded by the Johnson family. His face shone with happiness. Piles of birthday presents were stacked behind him. Diana and Arthur looked at Liam with relieved, doting smiles. George was raising a glass and chatting with several business partners. Margaret gracefully led Liam out of the crowd and greeted the guests one by one. On a small stage not far away, a popular band was performing energetically, and the atmosphere was lively. Olivia sent a message in the group. "Happy birthday to my dearest brother Liam. Always be happy, Margaret. Mom's little darling has turned another year older. Love you. Liam, thanks for the limited edition figurine from my sister. Thanks for the $1 million car from Dad. Thanks, Mom, for hiring my favorite band. I love you all." Liam deliberately mentioned me in the group. The family chat went suddenly silent. No one said another word. After a long time, Margaret sent one more message. "Ethan, happy birthday to you too. Mom has prepared a birthday gift for you as well." A photo was posted soon after. It was a few shells you could pick up on a beach. Treating an opportunistic, base imposter like a treasure. I wonder what faces they'll make when they find out Liam is Diana and Arthur's son. I had just turned off my phone when another message popped up. "Sophia, Ethan, happy birthday. My heart skipped a beat." Such an important player, and she hadn't thought of it all this time. I wanted to slap myself. I immediately replied, "Sophia, where are you now?" "Sophia, I'm sketching in Foam City with the professor and a few senior sisters. Me, come back. Book a flight back to Bay City right now. I must see you by the day after tomorrow at the latest." "Sophia, what's wrong?" "Ethan, did something happen to you?" I thought for a moment and decided to lie to this little girl. I'll tell you when you get back. If you can't make it back by the day after tomorrow, you'll never see me again." She immediately sent a string of crying emojis. "Ethan, I'll book a ticket now. Don't scare me." She sent a flood of messages. I didn't reply. Half an hour later, she sent me her booked flight details. I finally breathed a big sigh of relief. The next day, I switched into crazy stockpiling mode. I contacted suppliers in the neighboring city and arranged direct home delivery. I sent over the shopping list. Food first. 1 ton of rice, 1 ton of flour. Oils, salt, MSG, soy sauce, and all seasonings purchased in quantities for over a year for 2 people. Also bought barbecue and hot pot seasonings. A whole truckload of chicken, duck, fish, beef, and mutton. 2 tons of various dehydrated vegetables. 100 boxes of instant noodles. 50 boxes each of assorted canned fruit. 1,000 barrels of bulk water and 1,000 cases of bottled water. 100 cases each of white liquor, red wine, and foreign spirits. All sorts of snacks, candies, and drinks that girls like, purchased in amounts for over a year. Living supplies, tissues, towels, sanitary pads, toothpaste, toothbrushes, shampoo, facial cleanser, body wash, dish soap, skincare products. Loaded up a full truck. Of course, tissues took up the most space. Then clothing and shoes. Waterproof and windproof down jackets for men and women, all kinds of warm inner and outerwear, windproof masks, 50 pieces of each. Then various medicines. Enough for 2 people for over a year. Next, on the mental side, girls like watching dramas. I specifically ordered 50 tablets, 50 phones, and 200 power banks. I also bought a satellite phone at high price just in case. These devices were charged to full per my instructions, and I downloaded popular movies, music, TV shows, short web dramas, novels, and games. Then I bought all kinds of fitness equipment suitable for both men and women. And of course, most importantly, I bought 10 generators. Fuel, batteries, high-powered flashlights, and solar panels were also indispensable. I hauled a whole truckload of firewood for burning. One truck after another unloaded the supplies and drove out of the villa compound. My only neighbor stood on the rooftop of his villa, looking over at us with a strange expression. I turned slowly and met his gaze. He waved in greeting. I kept a stern face and ignored him, then turned and went into the villa. In the extreme environment of the apocalypse, it's best to keep some distance from others. I looked at the villa piled high with supplies and finally felt reassured. I checked the time. Sophia's plane would land in an hour. I hurriedly drove to the airport. The exit was packed with people. I immediately saw Sophia, her hair in a ponytail, dragging a large suitcase, anxiously looking around. She wore a white cartoon t-shirt and jeans embroidered with small flowers. Her delicate face was full of worry. When she saw me, her big eyes suddenly lit up. Like a startled little deer, she ran toward me. "Ethan!" She came panting, threw herself into my arms, then stepped back, her eyes reddened, taking me in from head to toe. "What's wrong with you? Are you okay? You scared me to death on the phone, and you didn't reply to my messages." I was worried all night and couldn't sleep. I stared at her on the verge of tears, and a complex, warm feeling surged through me. In the original book, Sophia and the protagonist both grew up in an orphanage. When they were children, Sophia was bullied and shoved into a pond, almost drowning. The protagonist risked his life to save her. After that, the protagonist always looked after her and fought countless fights for her. Gradually, no one dared to trouble her anymore. They were childhood sweethearts and inseparable from a young age. Later, the orphanage closed when they were in high school. The protagonist went to school while working part-time at night to earn money for both of their tuition fees. When living expenses were insufficient, he would give all the money on him to Sophia and go hungry himself. Later, the protagonist was taken back by the Johnson family. Sophia hugged him, crying tears of joy. "Ethan, this is wonderful. I'm so happy for you. You won't have to suffer like this anymore." In the book, when the protagonist sensed the impending extreme cold apocalypse, he warned many people and even posted about it online. Others didn't believe him and mocked him as crazy. Only Sophia believed him wholeheartedly. She didn't have much money to stockpile supplies, so she frantically borrowed from foreign online loan platforms. She tried every loan app she could. In the end, she rented a remote villa and made simple modifications. Of course, because funds were limited, it couldn't be turned into an impregnable fortress like mine, but it was serviceable. She hoarded supplies like crazy and ultimately managed to survive the extreme cold apocalypse with great difficulty. But then she discovered that her Ethan had died. The Johnson family claimed it was an accidental death by freezing. Sophia didn't believe it. She couldn't accept that someone who had predicted the extreme cold apocalypse would accidentally freeze to death outside. She went completely mad with grief, convinced it was murder. She reported it to the police and even publicly questioned the Johnson family online. Her behavior was nothing less than inviting disaster. The Johnsons had finally had enough and staged a car accident. In the end, Sophia didn't die from the apocalypse. She died because of the Johnsons' scheme. This time, let me protect her properly. I'm fine. I took her oversized suitcase and ruffled her hair. I was kidding. I just missed you. Otherwise, why will my little sister Sophia come back so quickly? Sophia froze for a moment, then tears instantly welled up. She pounded my chest with her tiny fists. "Ethan, you bastard. You scare me to death." Boo-hoo. When she finished speaking, she crouched down and started crying. The crowd surged, countless people throwing curious glances our way. At that moment, my heart trembled sharply. I thought, if there really is someone in the world who cares about you so deeply, that must be a very happy thing. I pulled out my phone to scare her. Okay, I was wrong. If you don't get up, I'll record this and post it on Moments. Her crying stopped abruptly. She looked up, her wet big eyes glaring at me angrily. "You dare?" I yank her up off the ground. All right, we'll talk on the way. Come with me first." I didn't explain much. Slung an arm around her slender shoulders, I hurried toward where the car was parked. Along the way, Sophia kept asking questions. Seeing that I was evasive, she didn't press the topic further. She chattered nonstop about the amusing things from her sketching trip in Feng City. Like a little warbler, unable to stop. When the car drove into Blue Ridge and stopped in front of the villa surrounded on all sides by tall walls and electric fences, Looking both solemn and luxurious, Sophia's eyes widened in astonishment. "Ethan, this is our home from now on." I opened the heavy special steel gate with a biometric scanner and a mechanical key as I said it. Sophia stood dumbfounded for a moment. Two flushes rose to her cheeks. She glanced at me shyly several times. The joy in her heart almost spilled over. The moment the gate opened, warm, humid air rushed out, completely different from the abnormal stifling heat outside. When Sophia walked into the villa and saw the steaming natural hot spring and mountains of supplies filling almost every room, she was utterly stunned. Her small mouth formed an O. Her eyes were full of shock. "Ethan, are you planning to open a supermarket? Or is it the end of the world?" She turned to me, her gaze full of disbelief. I pulled her down onto the sofa and looked into her eyes. "Sophia," I took a deep breath, my voice unusually serious. "If I told you the world really is ending, would you believe me?" Sophia stared into my eyes for a long time, making sure I wasn't joking, then nodded very earnestly. "I believe you, Ethan. Whatever you say, I will believe." No wonder in the book Sophia hoarded supplies, even if she had to borrow from every platform. Her trust in the original protagonist was really down to the bone. A warmth rose in my chest for no reason. Sophia was very beautiful, tall and slender, graceful, with a pair of star-like big eyes. Definitely a 95 out of 100. Now that she was by my side, this cold apocalypse fortress felt more like a home. I told her a story. I didn't mention transmigration into a book. I only said I'd been reborn and told her everything from my previous life. Sophia was heartbroken. She hugged me and cried with tears streaking her face. "Ethan, this time we have to do things properly. Don't leave me. Promise you'll never leave me, okay?" I looked at her hand gripping the hem of my clothes and felt a surge of pity. "All right, I'll never leave you for life." I gently wiped her tears away. "This time let me protect you." Outside the window, clouds had begun to gather before either of us noticed. The sky took on a rare, ominous dark red. The distant city lights were gradually draped in a reddish veil, becoming somewhat blurred. Officials issued an orange cold wave warning. A major temperature drop will occur within the next month, with lows reaching minus 20 degrees Celsius. Citizens are advised to take precautions against the cold. In fact, during the first month, temperatures fell to minus 80 degrees. In the second month, the lows dropped to minus 100 degrees. The whole world froze. The next day, temperatures had already fallen to 0 degrees, and tiny snowflakes began to fall. This foreshadowed the arrival of an apocalyptic deep freeze. Sophia stood by the floor-to-ceiling window, staring at the gray sky with worry. She turned to me, her face looking pale. "Ethan, so many people will die in this freezing apocalypse. Don't you think we should report this to the authorities?" I knew she wasn't being sentimental. She was simply kind by nature. I thought for a moment and handed her the satellite phone. "Sophia, use this phone to make contact. This is a satellite virtual number. IP addresses can't be traced. Turn it off after you contact them to avoid unnecessary trouble." In the book, when the deep freeze apocalypse arrived, the authorities responded quickly, building safe houses and opening underground shelters to keep people warm. Naturally, those who went were the lower-class families who couldn't store large amounts of supplies. The truly wealthy, out of pride and stubbornness, mostly stayed at home, thinking the cold wouldn't last long. After all, where is it more comfortable than home when thousands are crowded together? The safe houses and shelters soon became overcrowded, and it would be impossible to get in later. Sophia quickly reported the deep freeze situation to the relevant departments. She also informed close classmate Emma, friends, and the professor one by one, then switched the phone off. Whether they believed her or not was up to fate. In the early hours, the snowflakes grew from the size of fireflies to the size of goose feathers. I watched the snowfall through the window. Snow was already accumulating on the ground. The sky was like a thick blanket, pitch black with not a sliver of light. In the morning, the external cameras at the Johnson Villa pinged. I knew the Johnsons must have returned. I hurriedly cast all the surveillance footage onto the huge screen in the villa's main hall. Sure enough, the Johnson convoy slowly drove into the courtyard. They had left when it was still over 30 degrees. Now it was -5 or 6. They shivered as they got out of the cars, lips turning a bluish black from the cold. The moment the villa gates opened, George and Margaret leading the way and Olivia arm in arm with Liam froze. The main hall of the villa was empty. The expensive French sofas, carpets, rosewood tea tables, and antique shelves that had been there were all gone. The walls were bare, the famous paintings were missing, the wallpaper gone, even the curtains were gone. Looking across the entire villa hall, aside from smooth walls and a few solitary indoor air conditioning units, there was nothing. Truly, a house utterly stripped bare. Margaret was the first to scream. Her voice was full of disbelief and terror. What happened? Did someone break into the house? My paintings. My antiques. George's face went ashen, veins bulging on his forehead. He hurried into the living room, then dashed to the study, kitchen, and bedrooms. Everywhere was empty. Not even a single bowl or a pair of chopsticks remained in the kitchen. Even the bed and the quilts were gone from the bedroom. He spun around and glared viciously at Olivia and Liam. I told you to leave Arthur and Diana at home to watch the house, but you two insisted on taking them with you. And now look, our house is gone. Olivia and Liam looked terrible. Arthur and Diana were so frightened they collapsed to the floor with a thud. Their faces were pale, and they stammered incoherently. Mr. Johnson, we didn't know it would turn out like this. They were fine when we left. Arthur seemed to remember something and cried out. Mr. Johnson, the front door lock was fine and the alarm wasn't triggered. A thief couldn't do this, and no one would dare to clear out a whole villa like this. It's got to be someone from inside the house. Liam rushed toward the room that had been filled with limited edition figures and game consoles. Now not even the cabinets remained. He slumped to the floor and sobbed loudly. My collection. It's all gone. Ethan. It must be Ethan. Olivia stormed into her walk-in closet and stared at the empty wardrobes and jewelry boxes. Her scream almost blew the roof off. Damn you, Ethan. My bags. My jewelry. My clothes. They're all gone. Ethan, I'll kill you. George was so furious he nearly fainted. He trembled as he called me, but I hung up on him. I sent him a selfie of the vacant Johnson villa. The smile on my face was smug. Seeing the photo made George even angrier. He smashed his phone on the spot. Inside Blue Ridge Villa, Sophia was half reclining on the sofa in my arms. She watched the Johnson family descend into hysteria on the surveillance footage and laughed until her stomach hurt. After a long while, she looked at me suspiciously. Ethan, aren't you afraid they'll call the police if you do this? The corner of my mouth curved slowly as I said with certainty, it's not that they don't want to, they won't dare. Sophia grew more puzzled, her big eyes fixed on me without blinking. Why wouldn't they dare? Because I have leverage on them. I then showed her the surveillance video of how Liam framed me and how the Johnson family abused the original owner. The Johnson family's losses amount to just over $100 million. Once what I have goes public, they won't just be ruined, their actions could land them in prison. Then the Johnson family's losses will be far more than just this. Sophia watched the footage, heartbroken, crying uncontrollably. Aren't they your family? How could they treat you like that? Family? Family would abandon the original owner outside to die in the bitter cold of the apocalypse? Sophia watched the scenes of the original being doused with ice water, pricked with needles, and whipped. Tears streamed down her face. It's okay, it's all over now. I patted her back and soothed her gently. They will pay the price soon enough. Outside, the temperature had already dropped to -10 degrees. Luckily, the air conditioning in the Johnson villa still worked. The family sat under the air conditioning to recover for a while. Having suffered such a loss, all they could do was grit their teeth and swallow their pride. George immediately changed the villa's front gate code. He had no choice and had to urgently contact suppliers to repurchase furniture. Then he shivered all the way as he took the whole family out in a hurry to buy clothes and supplies. By the time they finished, it was already dark. I glanced at the supplies they'd bought. It was only enough to last about a month. This extreme cold apocalypse weather was set to last an entire year. Wait and see how you all manage. Olivia collapsed on the sofa, exhausted, still complaining at Margaret. Mom, I told you. People like Ethan who grew up in the countryside have terrible morals. You should never have taken him in. It would have been better if he died out there. George, furious, slapped the newly bought table and ground his teeth. That ungrateful brat even took the angel's heart I bought for your mother. It makes me so mad. He'd better not cross my path, or I'll break both his legs. Margaret just kept wiping her tears, her lips trembling. She couldn't say a word. After all, Ethan was the one she had found and brought back. Now that things had come to this, she was full of regret and guilt. Liam leaned against Margaret, his eyes reddened. It's my fault. I shouldn't have insisted on going to Coral Island for a vacation. Otherwise, this wouldn't have happened. Mom, Dad, please don't be angry. Don't let it make you ill. He handed Margaret a tissue to wipe her tears. Mom, Dad, I'll stay with you from now on. I would never make you angry like Ethan did. Our Liam is so sensible. Olivia immediately agreed, making a disdainful face. 1,000 times better than that little beast. George looked at Liam's filial demeanor, and his expression softened a bit. But when he thought about that wretch emptying out the villa, his heart ached again. Over the next week, temperatures plunged dramatically. It reached minus 30 degrees. Authorities repeatedly issued red-level extreme cold warnings, saying the lowest temperature could hit minus 50 degrees and urging people to take measures to keep warm. The duration of the possible extreme cold was extended to 2 months. Doomsday talk ran rampant online. Most netizens didn't believe it. End of the world? Dude, you've read too many novels. Obviously from the south. Up north we've seen worse. Minus 30? This is a warm winter. Laughable southern authors writing about an ice apocalypse. Bro, did you stock up 200 gene of cabbage and 50 gene of potatoes? Only 2 months? Is spring coming early this year? The South was more panicked. Many places had already stopped work and production. Prices quadrupled. Looting and frantic buying of supplies broke out everywhere. The Johnsons had stockpiled more than half a month's worth again. It wasn't that they didn't want to hoard more. They simply couldn't get anything else. Even suppliers started running out. Ordinary citizens who couldn't get supplies flooded into safe houses and air raid shelters. In just 3 days, they were already overcrowded. People at the back couldn't get in and had to fend for themselves. I saw these reports online, surprised. In the original book, the opening of safe houses and shelters came over a week later than this. It seems Sophia's phone call had made some difference. Of course, some people still took it lightly, especially young Southerners who were unusually excited. They'd never seen so much snow since childhood and were having the time of their lives. Social media filled with snowy photos, skiing, snowball fights, bikini selfies. 1 month later, the temperature plunged to minus 70 degrees. Countless people started believing the end of the world talk. Many who had stocked little supplies were already running out of food. Lots of netizens were complaining online that supplies were no longer available anywhere. Even if you could buy something, the prices were astronomical. Some people even posted that in the South a rich man wanted to trade a luxury car for 2 sacks of rice, or pay $10,000 for a loaf of bread. But no one replied. The post disappeared into the void. Those who still had things dared not sell them, fearing that if the news leaked, they'd be robbed. If someone's about to starve to death, what wouldn't they do? Houses in the South had no ground heating, no central heating. Their insulation was poor. Even with the air conditioners turned to max, they could hardly withstand the cold. Many elderly people went to sleep at night and never woke up. Some got sick, had no medicine at home, and couldn't get to a hospital. Emergency lines were dead. They could only go from place to place begging for medicine or wait to die. Worse, because of the extreme cold, even normal water supply couldn't be guaranteed. All drinking water froze solid. Even freshly boiled water would turn to ice soon after. Posts begging for food appeared more and more online. But no one could say when the brutal cold would end. Even if people had food, they were unwilling to share it. With nowhere else to turn, people tried to find safe houses and air raid shelters. But those places were overcrowded. You couldn't squeeze in. In some areas, the snow was more than 2 meters deep. Many cars parked on the street were buried, and transport was completely paralyzed. Occasionally, a plane would airdrop supplies. Each time, they were looted. Some people collapsed and never got back up. Starving, desperate people increased. Looting and violent thefts began everywhere. Violent and bloody incidents played out across regions. Civilization and order were beginning to collapse. As for Sophia and me, we couldn't have been happier. The whole villa had been insulated. The cold had a hard time getting in. In the hall, 2 fireplaces crackled as pine logs burned. Steam rose from the natural hot spring pool. The air was warm and humid. With the air conditioning still working, the indoor temperature stayed at 20 degrees Celsius. Sophia and I sat around the dining table. On it was a steaming Inyang hot pot. Beef tripe, fatty beef, and lamb rolls, duck intestines, foie gras, shrimp paste, pig brain, all kinds of delicacies filled the table. There was chilled red wine and soft drinks on the side. Ethan, the tripe's ready. Try some. Sophia picked up a fresh, crunchy slice of tripe, dipped it into a sauce of chili, garlic, and sesame oil, grinning as she placed it into my bowl. Just then my phone rang. It was George sending a video. Johnson's family had little food left lately. To survive the extreme cold, they had cut their 3 meals a day down to 2. All the good food had been given to Liam. The others could only eat until they were half full. Truly the family's favorite. I wonder how they'll thank him when they realize it's the housekeeper and nanny raising the kid. I thought for a moment, then answered. In the video, George's face was distorted with anger. Ethan, I said, why did you clear out the whole house and leave only the air conditioner? Tell me, did you tamper with the AC? Why are all the air conditioners in the house broken? Do you want the Johnsons to freeze to death? I couldn't help smiling and quickly opened the surveillance feed. I just saw the Johnsons wrapped in quilts, shivering from the cold. I cheerfully popped that crunchy slice of tripe into my mouth, chewed a few times with my eyes closed, then, unhurriedly, replied to the video on my phone. Mr. Johnson, you can't say things like that. The air conditioner broke, maybe it's too cold, and it wanted to go on strike and rest a bit. In the video, George's face was so furious he looked about to spit blood. Don't play dumb with me. It must be you wretch, causing trouble. Then tell me why you didn't move the air conditioner? I stopped pretending and admitted it openly. Yes, that's right. I rigged it ahead of time. Well then, if you've got the nerve, come bite me. My tone grew more teasing. Mr. Johnson, it's -70 outside now. If I told you the address, would you dare come? You should take care of your health first. Don't accidentally freeze to death. George trembled with rage on the other end of the video. He pointed at me, his lips quivering, unable to get a word out. Olivia, wrapped in a thick quilt, looked like a clumsy penguin. She clenched her teeth and cursed angrily. Dad, Mom, I told you long ago Ethan should have died out there. You insisted on bringing him back. Look at us now. We're this miserable because of that little beast. Liam's whiny voice rang out again. Ethan, I know you don't like me, but how could you do this to Mom and Dad? Ethan, what are you doing? You're eating hot pot? Liam's face, pale from the cold, squeezed into the frame. He stared hard at the slices of beef on my chopsticks and the steaming, double-flavored hot pot in front of me. He swallowed several times, his eyes nearly popping out. His voice twisted sharp. Hot pot? How can you still have hot pot to eat? And fresh beef and mutton? That's impossible. You're not even wearing a down jacket, just a single layer, and you're sweating? Damn it. Where are you? Liam was beside himself. Although he could still manage 3 meals a day, he could only drink plain rice porridge. The dishes had long been finished, but the porridge did nothing to fill his hunger. Seeing me eat such a lavish hot pot drove him wild with jealousy. He had thought I might have frozen to death. Unexpectedly, not only was I alive, I was living so well. How could it be? I laughed out loud. I deliberately swirled the beef in the red oil broth again and again. Slowly dipped it in the sauce, and in front of Liam, put it into my mouth. I tilted my head slightly and sighed with satisfaction. So good. Several sounds of swallowing came through the phone immediately. Ethan, George's furious voice sounded again, full of exasperation. Where on earth are you? Where did you get all this good stuff? I aimed the camera at the mountain of supplies piled behind me. I looked as smug as could be. Where am I? Guess. Where did I get them? Of course, I cleared out your villa and pooled money to buy them. So much food could last 1 or 2 years. It's a pity you can't eat any of it. George couldn't hold it and spat blood. The Johnsons hurried to check on things. Fortunately, nothing serious, and George's color improved a bit. Ethan, no matter what, we're still family. Margaret took the phone, her eyes red. She looked pale after not seeing him for a while. She seemed haggard, as if she'd aged 7 or 8 years. It was always us, your parents, who were wrong before. Tell me, where are you? We'll come find you, okay? If our family is together, neat and whole, we can survive. I didn't argue with her any longer. I simply hung up the video. After finishing Hot Pot, Sophia and I soaked in the hot spring again, nice and relaxed. Maybe we'd slept too much during the day. By late night, neither of us felt sleepy. We burrowed into the warm covers and watched a movie with a projector. Midnight. A loud boom shattered the silence. A gunshot. Sophia and I exchanged a glance. In each other's eyes, we saw shock and disbelief. In our country, most people only see this kind of thing in films and TV. My heart dropped. The shot came from very close, toward the neighboring villa with occupants. Ethan, Sophia instinctively gripped my arm, her voice trembling slightly. Don't be afraid, I said, taking her cold fingers in my hand and soothing her in a low voice. We're safe here. Even if they have explosives, they won't necessarily get in. Stay put. I'll go check it out. I slipped out of bed and retrieved a high-power telescope from under the bed. I had found it in the basement when I bought the villa. I moved silently to the thick, bulletproof window and carefully aimed the scope at the neighbors. The night vision lens caught 2 figures, one tall and thin, one short and fat. They were roughly prying at the carved front door with tools, moving skillfully and quickly, not like it was their first time doing this. In no time, the door was forced open. From inside came a few brief cries and shouts. Then everything fell silent again. A chill ran through me. The neighbor who had greeted us last time was probably in dire straits. Blue Ridge should only have 2 inhabited villas. With the heavy snow blocking the mountains, how did these people even get up here? I suddenly remembered a news item I'd seen before the extreme cold hit. 2 robbers had gone missing. The police were asking the whole city for leads and specifically warned the robbers might be armed. Armed robbery is rare these days, so it stuck in my mind. Those 2 were described as one tall and thin, one short and fat. No wonder the police couldn't find them. They were likely hiding in the uninhabited villas on Blue Ridge. They must have run out of food and been forced to come out and steal. How is it? Sophia whispered, worry written all over her face. I set down the telescope and told her, with a grave expression, what I'd seen and my conjecture. Her face went several shades paler. They robbed next door? Could they come to us? I pulled her into my arms to calm her. It's fine. We've got the electric fence, and the gate and glass are bulletproof and blast resistant. They can't get in. But for the next couple of days, don't sing karaoke at the villa. Let's keep a low profile. Okay, Ethan, I'll listen to you. This girl had a variety of pastimes. Singing karaoke, watching dramas, painting, gaming, and enjoyed herself. I focused more on fitness. The original owner had a hard life and wasn't in great shape, so I used this time to work on my body. I'm stronger now, with muscles more defined. Yet whenever we soaked in the hot spring together, she still looked at my scarred body and her eyes would redden. I noticed something amusing on the monitor. The Johnsons, to keep warm, had dug a human-shaped pit in their bed. When they slept, they were embedded in the mattress and covered with blankets. The effect actually seemed pretty good. On the third night after the gunshot, we were lying in bed as usual when, in the middle of the night, an alarm blared suddenly. The villa's outermost infrared sensor, the first line of defense, had been triggered. Sophia and I woke up instantly. "They're here," I whispered, signaling her not to panic. I quickly grabbed the high-powered flashlight from the bedside table and a golf club, then slipped quietly to the surveillance wall in the living room on the second floor. On the night vision monitors, the two figures, one tall, one short, had indeed appeared. They were heavily dressed, wearing hats and wrapped in scarves, cautiously approaching the perimeter electric fence around the villa. The short, fat man held a dark object, probably a handgun. The tall one carried a hydraulic cable cutter. "They're trying to cut the fence." Sophia covered her mouth, her voice trembling with fear. "Not that easy," I said in a low voice. "This fence is built to the highest standard," I demanded, "carrying high voltage and extremely sturdy. Ordinary hydraulic cutters won't get through it." They first tried to break through the main gate. Bang, bang, bang. They hammered at it a dozen times, but the gate didn't budge at all. They had to give up. Next, the tall man struggled to clamp the hydraulic cutter onto the fence wire. He slammed the handle shut. Sparks crackled, and he screamed as he was instantly thrown back. The cutter slipped from his hands and fell into the snow. Sure enough, the fence wasn't breached. The short, fat man muttered a curse under his breath. The two rubbed their hands and paced agitatedly around the outside of the wall several times. Eventually, they gave up, trying to break through the fence head-on. They moved to the side of the villa. The side is attached to the main building. There was no electric fence, but the wall was very high with nowhere to get a foothold. Even if they managed to get to a second-floor window, the bulletproof level glass would be impossible to break. The short, fat man clearly didn't want to give up and whispered something to the tall man. The tall man nodded. He stepped on the short man's shoulders and used the hydraulic cutter to smash the icy surface of the wall, gouging out notches. The tall man climbed up along the notches. Unfortunately, after only a few climbs, he let out a scream and tumbled heavily back onto the snow with a dull thud. The two didn't give up. They tried several more times, all ending in failure. The tall man angrily kicked the wall a couple of times. In the -70-degree cold, they struggled for nearly half an hour, trembling from the cold, yet helpless. "Looks like they can't get in." Sophia breathed a little easier. My brow remained furrowed. I didn't relax. I kept my eyes fixed on their movements. The short, fat man lost his patience and began cursing loudly. He spoke in a foreign dialect. I couldn't make out what he was saying, but it sounded nasty. He suddenly raised the handgun and pulled the trigger at the second-floor windows. I immediately covered Sophia's ears. Bang, bang, bang. A rapid volley of gunfire rang out. Bullets struck the thick vacuum bulletproof glass. The glass didn't budge, leaving only tiny white marks. The short, fat man froze, unable to believe his eyes. He fired several more shots until the gun clicked empty. Frustrated, he smashed the handgun into the snow. In the end, faced with -70-degree bitter cold and an impregnable fortress defense, the two exchanged a resentful look, pulled their coats tighter, swore a few more curses, spat twice, and gradually disappeared into the boundless blizzard, glancing back every few steps. The crisis was temporarily averted. Sophia sank to the floor and let out a long breath. "Ethan, that scared me to death." I helped her up and watched the tall and short figures disappear on the monitor, my eyes showing no relaxation. This is only the beginning. They will never give up. We must be prepared for a protracted fight. Sophia was anxious all night and hadn't slept well. She only fell into a deep sleep by morning. I came to the living room and had just brewed a cup of coffee when my phone abruptly rang. I saw it was George again, impossible to shake off. I cheerfully answered the call. "Mr. Johnson, what is it this time?" "Don't worry about me. I'm living quite well." But the voice on the other end was Margaret's. "Ethan, please bring some food back. We're almost out. We can't hold out more than a few days. Do it for your mother's sake. Help us." I snorted coldly. "Mrs. Margaret, it's nearly -80 degrees out there. You want me to bring food back? You don't worry, I'll freeze to death on the way." There was a moment of silence on the line. Then George's agitated voice came through. "You wretched son, we are your biological parents. Even if you die, you must deliver the supplies to us." Liam's syrupy voice chimed in. "Ethan, your life was given to you by your parents. Isn't it only right you'd give your life for them?" On the surveillance feed, the Johnsons had already started burning furniture for heat. Margaret held Liam to her chest with a look of pity. "Liam, you really are your mother's good son. If Ethan were half as sensible as you, would we treat him like this?" Listening to Liam's nauseating words and Margaret's blatant favoritism, I laughed in fury. "Liam, if you're really that sensible, why don't you take out those beef jerky and chocolates you've been hiding and offer them to your parents?" I said slowly into the phone. On the feeding footage, Liam went pale in an instant. His eyes darted anxiously toward Margaret. Margaret instinctively loosened her arm around Liam. A flicker of doubt crossed the Johnsons' faces. What nonsense are you talking about?" Liam barked out. I snorted. "Whether I'm lying is something you know in your own heart." Liam panicked and fell to his knees with a thud. "Mom, Dad, I didn't. Please believe me, I swear." Butler Arthur and Diana hurriedly pleaded as well. "Yes, Mr. Johnson, Mrs. Margaret, we can vouch. Mr. Liam didn't hide anything." Olivia dragged Liam to his feet. "Mom, Dad, I believe Liam isn't that kind of person. It must be Ethan being jealous that we favor Liam. Yes, he's inciting trouble. See how vicious he is." George and Margaret quickly went to comfort Liam. "How could your parents not believe you?" "Silly child, you're so kind you'd never do such a thing." Ethan, on the other hand, I didn't listen further, nor did I intend to expose them right then. I hung up. They wouldn't last many days. I had to deliver the fatal blow when they were at their most desperate. That night, Sophia and I were sweetly playing a co-op game when suddenly the power went out. Sophia let out a piercing scream. Down on the mountain, the whole Bay City was plunged into darkness. It seemed the power grid had indeed collapsed. I muttered that this was bad. Sure enough, from the surveillance, the cameras were battery-powered. I saw two figures, one tall and one short, sprinting quickly toward us. The short, chubby one was holding a cleaver. The tall, skinny man grabbed an iron hammer. With the power grid down, it was the best time for them to get into the inner courtyard. Now that I was running power with a generator, it was obviously too late. Sophia's face went pale with fright. "Ethan, what do we do now?" I pulled her into my arms and soothed her gently. "Don't be afraid. The villa's front door is even more solid than the outer gate. Explosives couldn't blow it open. The walls are reinforced too. There's no way his hammer can break it." Hearing me say that, Sophia relaxed a little. I handed Sophia a baseball bat. I took a golf club and an electric shock baton, just in case. Soon, two figures, one tall and one thin, had climbed over the power fence. They reached the villa's front gate. Without a word, the short, fat man swung a cleaver and chopped violently at the lock. It proved completely useless. The short, fat man took a few steps back. The tall, skinny man swung the iron hammer and smashed hard against the door panel. Dong! The steel-plated iron gate gave a dull, thunderous boom that echoed through the snowy night, making people's hearts tremble. The special steel-plated gate still stood immovable, though it left a small dent. Damn it! What the hell kind of door is this? This place is built like a fortress. They must have stockpiled supplies inside. They exchanged a look and immediately tapped into a surge of energy. The tall, skinny man swung the iron hammer, striking the massive steel door blow after blow. Cursing and the sounds of impact roared incessantly. Inside the villa, Sophia clutched my arm tightly, her nails digging deep into my flesh. Every strike made her shudder all over. "Ethan, they won't actually break the door down, will they?" Her voice wavered with sobs. In theory, they couldn't break it open. But seeing how crazed the two of them were, I suddenly felt uncertain for a moment. Then a bright idea struck me as if I'd thought of something. I grabbed a high-powered flashlight and dashed into the kitchen, hauled the two large steel buckets of boiling water up to the second floor. I opened the second-floor window and poured the hot water down. It landed right on the two of them. The second bucket followed immediately. Caught completely off guard, they were soaked in an instant. The next second, the water froze, turning them rigid. Their miserable wails lasted less than 10 seconds. In the extreme cold approaching minus 80 degrees, they were frozen into ice sculptures. Not until the generator kicked back on and power was restored in the villa did Sophia suddenly throw herself into my arms and start to sob. Two ice sculptures stood at the front gate. Sophia was a little frightened. The next day, I wrapped myself up like a dumpling and wore a windproof mask. It took a monumental effort to drag the two ice sculptures beyond the villa's perimeter. Back inside, I checked the Johnson family surveillance. These cameras are battery-powered. The blackout didn't affect them. At that time, the Johnsons had embedded themselves in their beds, motionless. They were starving, their eyes dim and hollow. It was time to make them face reality, while their phones still had power and signal. I pulled George, Margaret, and Olivia into a group chat. First, I sent them photos of the mountains of supplies piled up inside Blue Ridge Villa. Beef and mutton, rice and flour, walls lined with instant noodles and canned goods, drinks and snacks filling entire rooms. I sent them images of the two roaring fireplaces. The three of them stared, eyes nearly popping, greedily swallowing. Their faces were full of shock and longing. Olivia's envy, jealousy, and anger burst out. She soon sent a voice message. "Ethan, we're your blood relatives. Aren't you just itching for us to die? Send the supplies over, and I'll reluctantly admit you're my brother. I'm telling you, don't be ungrateful. I'm only giving you one chance. Ethan, my son." Margaret's voice was weak and trembling, pleading in a servile tone. "Mom knows she was wrong. Just send some food, okay? I'll treat you well from now on. I'll make it up to you." George's violent coughing came through. "Ungrateful wretch. You just want to kill us with anger, don't you? I'm telling you, don't even think about it. We wouldn't mistreat you if you weren't so vicious. If you were half as obedient as Liam, would we have treated you like this these past 2 years?" Looking at these people on the verge of death, I didn't get angry. I teased, "Oh, really? Then I'll let you see Liam for who he really is." I sent the surveillance footage of Liam, Diana, and Arthur secretly eating over the past few days into the group. The three of them were secretly eating beef jerky, chocolate, and compressed biscuits every day. The only ones actually starving were the three Johnsons. After I sent the video, the group fell into a death-like silence. The Johnsons' minds went blank. They couldn't believe what they were seeing. After a long while, Olivia's face twisted into a snarl. She ground her teeth and sent a long voice message in the group. "All right, Ethan, where did you get that video? Did you install cameras in our house? Don't think you can fool us with fake videos. You're just trying to sow discord. Liam is so kind. How could he do something like this? Ethan, you really are a rotten seed from birth. How vicious." Margaret finally reacted, her tone full of disappointment. "Ethan, how could you lie to us? We're Liam's parents. Even if he hoards things, he'd surely share them with us. How could he give them to the butler and the nanny? Ethan, you've truly disappointed your mother." George's furious voice came through. "Ethan, don't give me any of this nonsense. We won't believe it. Send the supplies over right now. You're my son. You'll never be able to repay our kindness in a lifetime. Even if you die, you have to die delivering the supplies for us." Indeed, prejudice is a mountain that won't be moved. No wonder in the book they dragged the original owner outside and let him freeze to death. Even if I put the truth right in front of them, their first reaction was not to question Liam. They thought I was framing him again. Then I showed that Liam had tumbled down the stairs on his own and that they smeared me as having pushed him. Liam hid the watch in my room and accused me of stealing it. He even slapped himself and released all the evidence claiming I hit him. I sneered and said, "My dear parents, Olivia, did I ever ask you last time if you actually had any proof that I did it? Not one of you spoke up. You said Liam is so kind. How could he lie? But you had no proof." "I do. Look closely. This is the good son you've raised for 20 years. Is this the upbringing of the Johnsons? Framing and slandering, one face in front and another behind? You abuse your own biological son for the sake of a despicable man. Huh, a prestigious family with a century of history, billion-dollar tycoons, all fooled by a little manipulative vixen. Tell me, how do you have the face to expect me to risk my life delivering supplies for you blinded, foolish idiots? The three of them replayed the video from the surveillance again and again. It really was recorded by the Johnsons' old cameras. How could they have never checked the footage in all this time? They convicted me solely on Liam's one-sided words. George stared at the video, his lips trembling uncontrollably, as if seeing that seemingly gentle foster son for the first time. Olivia's fingers on the phone went white. Her eyes were empty, as if her soul had been pulled out, and she kept murmuring, "How could this be? How could Liam be like this? No, this surveillance footage must be fake. We've raised Liam. He could never do such things. Impossible. Absolutely impossible." Margaret covered her mouth and burst into tears. "Ethan, Mom is sorry. Mom was wrong. Mom was really wrong." I continued sending voice messages in the group. "You asked earlier why Liam hid food and would rather give it to Diana and Arthur than to you. Because Arthur and Diana are Liam's biological parents. Think about it. Wasn't it Arthur who suggested you adopt Liam? Who said Liam looked a lot like the young master? Who said Liam had a lucky face and could bring good fortune to the Johnsons? Diana. Wasn't Arthur the one who recommended the job? You can go and ask Arthur properly whether it was him who colluded with traffickers to take me away back then. If I hadn't told you the truth, if this polar apocalypse hadn't happened, were you planning to let Liam inherit the Johnson family business? Haha, my dear parents, Olivia, you are really stupid. Led astray by a butler's plot for over 20 years. You almost lost everything of the Johnsons. Then I sent out the paternity tests for Liam, Diana, and Arthur. Take a good look at these paternity tests. I believe with your connections you can still contact a doctor who wasn't frozen to death. Go ask whether these paternity tests are real or fake. Sure enough, in the next second George began contacting doctors. The first 3 calls went unanswered. It seemed bleak. Only the 4th call got a response. The doctor replied that the test reports were genuine. The phone slipped from George's trembling hand, hit the floor, and made a dull thud. How could this be? The 3 Johnsons' minds went blank. They were stunned. Their bodies felt icy cold. The news shook them to their very souls. If all of this were true, then their years of effort were a complete joke. They had really been raising the butler's and nanny's child, and had treated their own flesh and blood like dogs. Their faces fell into terrible gloom. Their eyes filled with endless regret and furious rage. I grinned and kept stoking the fire. If you still don't believe it, there's a more direct way to verify. Right now, at this moment, the 3 of them and Liam's family are sneaking food in the kitchen. If you go now, you might catch them red-handed. The instant they received the message, George sprang up from the bed. This man who once dominated the business world now had bloodshot eyes, like a dying beast, and dashed toward the kitchen with a savage look. Margaret and Olivia scrambled up in panic, clutching their last shred of disbelief-tinged hope, and hurried after him. I quickly switched to the kitchen surveillance feed. On the screen, Liam, Diana, and Arthur huddled in a corner. Liam was wolfing down beef jerky. Diana nibbled a cookie while pityingly patting Liam's back. Arthur chewed chocolate and listened warily for sounds outside the kitchen. Arthur said earnestly, "Liam, we need to save food from now on. This damned cold snap. Who knows when it'll end? Once the Johnsons are all dead, that billions-dollar estate will be yours." Liam grumbled displeased. "I've been saying all along, might as well have thrown them out to freeze to death. Now look, those 3 idiots wasted so much of our food." Diana hurriedly covered Liam's mouth and lowered her voice nervously. "Oh, child, speak more quietly. Be careful they don't hear you." She glanced toward the kitchen door, then shoved another piece of chocolate into Liam's mouth. Who knows when this cold will pass? It'd be best if they froze to death. If I weren't afraid of the police finding out, I would have poisoned them ages ago. Should have stocked some sleeping pills. Wait till they're asleep as dead pigs, then toss them out. But they won't live long anyway. Liam, hold on a bit longer. Wait until those 3 idiots are so starved they have no strength. A cruel flash crossed her eyes, and her voice dropped even lower. Then we won't have to get our hands dirty. This damned weather will take care of them for us. She patted Liam's back. It sounded like comforting, but also like urging, eat quickly, don't leave any traces. Once we get the Johnson family fortune, how much jerky do you want to be up to you? Arthur nodded busily at the side, licking the last bit of chocolate off the wrapper. Your mother is right. After waiting 20 years, what's a few more days? Creak. The kitchen door was shoved open with great force. Dead silence. 6 people stood confronting each other in the cold kitchen. The 3 Johnsons at the door heard their conversation clearly, now seeing the crumbs at the corner of Liam's mouth. Diana and Arthur's instinctive movement to shield Liam behind them. The 3 Johnsons' righteous fury surged instantly. George's chest heaved violently, his face ashen. He lunged at the 3 of them. Vast, ard, venomous woman, evil slave. Each word seemed crushed out from between his teeth, laced with bone-piercing hatred. But before he could reach them, Liam kicked him away. George hadn't eaten for a long time and was weak. He was no match for Liam. George flew backwards, and with a thud smashed into the kitchen glass door. The glass shattered on impact. George lay on the floor and vomited a mouthful of blood with a wail. Only strange huffing sounds escaped his throat. George! Dad! Margaret and Olivia cried out simultaneously. Margaret rushed over and held George's rapidly cooling body. Her touch found only icy coldness. She went numb. Tears flooded out instantly. Her mouth opened wide, but no sound came. Her body trembled violently. Her eyes were pure despair. Liam panicked and instinctively tried to explain. Mrs. Margaret, Olivia, I really didn't mean to. He lunged at me, Olivia looked from her fallen father to the 3 culprits in front of her. Her eyes were bloodshot. It's you. You animals. You killed my father. You still want to seize the Johnson family's wealth. You won't die well. You beasts. Olivia had completely lost it. Her gaze swept the kitchen wildly, and she snatched up a kitchen knife from the cutting board. I'll kill you beasts. Ungrateful wolves. Pay with your lives. She screamed and, without regard for anything, charged at the 3 of them. Diana was terrified and tried to hide behind Arthur. Arthur stepped forward to block and explain. Miss Olivia, please listen to us. Before he could say explain, Olivia swung the knife and it struck first. Arthur collapsed onto the floor in fright. The knife didn't hit Arthur. It hit Liam. The blade plunged deep into Liam's shoulder, blood gushing out instantly, then quickly freezing into ice in the frigid air. Liam let out a pig-like scream, rolling on the ground in agony. Liam, my son! Seeing their son cut, Arthur and Diana were quickly overwhelmed by rage. The 2 of them went mad and grappled wildly with Olivia. How could Olivia, who worked often, stand against 2 furious people? She was soon knocked to the ground. Arthur pinned Olivia's knife-wielding wrist with all his strength. Diana, crazed, clawed viciously at Olivia's face with her nails, spitting out vicious curses. Bitch! How dare you hurt my son? I'll tear you apart. Margaret rushed over to help when she saw her daughter fall down. But she was quickly grabbed by the hair by Arthur and Diana and slammed onto the ground again and again. Ha! You idiots, you raised my son for 20 years. Treated your own son like a dog. Haha, this is hilarious. Bitch, today we'll send your whole family on their way. Soon Margaret and Olivia were beaten nearly to death. Liam came to and stood up with bloodshot eyes, kicking Margaret and Olivia hard with each foot. Do you know that every time I call you dad, mom, sister, it makes me sick? You believe whatever I say. You abused your own biological son to death. You bitches deserve to be parents? Deserve to be sisters. Go die, you idiots. At that moment, Endless remorse engulfed the two women. They thought about how many times I had been slandered, and they had never once believed me. They had treasured the housekeeper's and nanny's son as if he were precious. Thinking of the years of abuse toward me, they wished they could die by ramming their heads into something. Margaret kept murmuring, "Ethan, my Ethan." Liam, tired from kicking, still wore a frenzied expression. He called Arthur and Diana, and together they dragged the three of them outside like dead dogs. "You family scum ought to go to hell. Enjoy being frozen stiff." Margaret and Olivia were beaten to the brink of death. In the ice and snow, the cold wind stabbed their bones like needles. Their consciousness blurred. On the verge of death, they saw a different outcome. In that ending, they did not die. Instead, their own son and brother Ethan was thrown out by them just as cruelly as they were being now. They saw the same disgust and indifference on their faces as Liam wore at this moment. They heard words from their mouths, even harsher and more vicious than Liam's. "Ethan, why do you keep targeting Liam? The Johnsons don't have a son or brother like you. You little beast, just wait outside to die." They watched Ethan futilely reach out in the snow. His eyes moved from shock to pleading to utter despair. He tried to explain again and again. He knelt and begged again and again. What he got in return were their resolute backs and a shut door. They watched helplessly as their son and brother curled up in the blizzard. They watched his body stiffen bit by bit. His gaze lose its life slowly. He turned into a hard ice sculpture. And now, finally, it was their turn. Cold snowflakes fell on them. The piercing cold swiftly drained their body heat. Retribution. This was retribution. Margaret shed her last tear, which froze instantly into a bead. She took out her phone, trembling, and sent me 3 last words. "I'm sorry." Infinite remorse gnawed at her heart, but it was all too late. So this was what waiting to die in the bitter cold felt like. It's so cold. Their consciousness finally sank completely into nothingness. Half a month later, the temperature plunged to minus 100 degrees. Liam and his family had nothing to eat for several days. They closed their eyes slowly and never opened them again. Planes flew in rows and began rescuing everyone still alive. A year later, the snow melted and everything revived. The whole world began to awaken, a scene teeming with life. Sophia and I stepped out of the villa and held each other tightly. Later, I inherited the Johnson family savings, funds, and other assets totaling $18 billion US. At last, this unprecedented wealth had finally come to me. Without a word, I took Sophia and began a worldwide honeymoon tour. "George, I've got good news and bad news. Which do you want to hear first?" I put down my paintbrush and looked at my friend Frank. He stood at the studio door with a mysterious air, his face a mix of nervousness and excitement. "Let's start with the bad news. After all, I've gotten used to it these past 3 years. Your painting, Eternity, just sold for a sky-high price. Over $6 million. I frowned. "How is that bad news?" Frank chuckled. "Because it's actually part of the good news. The bad news is, buddy, you might need to see a psychiatrist." "What do you mean?" "A woman who looks exactly like Mary showed up at your art exhibition. I almost thought I was seeing a ghost." The paintbrush slipped from my hand and fell to the floor, splattering paint across the unfinished canvas. "Mary, my late wife, died 3 years ago after accidentally falling off a cliff. I watched with my own eyes as her body was pulled from the water. In that moment, my world completely collapsed." "Stop joking around, Frank. Why would I lie to you?" "She even left this." Frank handed me a note with an address and a time written on it. My hand trembled slightly. The handwriting was exactly the same as Mary's. That night, I waited until midnight at the designated cafe. Just as I was about to leave, a familiar figure appeared at the door. "Mary?" No, it couldn't be her. But every gesture of that woman, from the tips of her hair to her fingertips, was a shadow of Mary. "George, it's been a long time." She sat across from me, and the familiar voice nearly made my heart stop. "Who are you?" I struggled to remain calm. "I'm Mary, your wife." She smiled and reached out her hand. There was a scar on her palm, the mark Mary got when she accidentally cut herself on glass at 15. "Impossible. Mary is already dead." She laughed softly. That was just an accident. I fell off the cliff and was saved by a reclusive old doctor. I lost my memory from the injuries and only recently remembered everything. As she spoke, tears began to fall with an expression I knew all too well, the look Mary wore whenever she felt wronged. I know it's hard to believe, but I really am Mary. I couldn't believe my eyes. The shade of lipstick Mary loved most, the faint little mole beneath her left ear, the unconscious habit of rubbing her ring while speaking. Everything was so familiar. Are you really Mary? She nodded and took a small box out of her bag. This is the proof. Inside the box was the first piece of jewelry Mary ever designed. A sapphire ring, the only one of its kind, never mass-produced. I brought it with me that day because I wanted to surprise you. I suddenly stood up and pulled her into my arms. 3 years of longing surged over me like a tide. I held her tightly, afraid that if I let go, she would disappear again. On the way home, she told me about her experiences over the past 3 years. She was rescued by an old doctor in the mountains, lost her memory due to a severe head injury, and lived in a remote mountain village for more than 2 years. It wasn't until she happened to see a poster for my art exhibition that her memory gradually returned. The next day, I took her to see Frank. Oh my God, it really is you, Mary. Frank stared in astonishment, eyes wide. Frank, it's been a long time. She greeted him with a smile, exactly as I remembered. Frank pulled me aside and whispered, Man, this is unbelievable, but I really believe it's her. Who else but Mary could call me by my childhood nickname so accurately? That was something only the two of you knew. A week later, Mary officially returned. We held a small welcome party for her. Her mother was so overwhelmed that she fainted, and when she woke up, she clung to her daughter and refused to let go. But that night, I noticed the first sign that something was off. Mary never ate mangoes because she was severely allergic. Yet the returned Mary absent-mindedly tasted a mango dessert and was perfectly fine. Aren't you allergic to mangoes? I asked. She paused for a moment, then quickly laughed and said, Oh, that old Chinese doctor cured my allergy. He's really amazing. I nodded, but in my heart, I marked the first question mark. Is this really my wife? A month passed quickly, and Mary blended perfectly into our lives. She knew the location of every item in the house, remembered our shared memories, and could even accurately name friends we hadn't contacted in years. But those subtle feelings of discord kept growing. For example, the real Mary liked to listen to classical music, especially Debussy, while designing jewelry. But she would always unconsciously hum along to pop songs. Mary always habitually used her left hand to hold chopsticks, even though she knew it was wrong. She just couldn't change. But she was a standard right-handed user. The most obvious difference appeared that night when I accidentally caught her smoking in the bedroom. The real Mary hated the smell of smoke. Even when I came home from social events with a faint scent of cigarettes, she would frown. When did you start smoking? I stood at the doorway, my voice soft. She was clearly startled, hastily snuffing out the cigarette. This is a herbal cigarette for treating insomnia, prescribed by an old Chinese doctor. I nodded, not pressing further, but the doubts in my heart only grew deeper. The next day, I went to find Frank. Help me check if, in the past 3 years, plastic surgery technology has advanced enough to achieve this level. Frank's eyes widened. You mean, she's not Mary? I'm not sure, but there are always some things that don't add up. 2 days later, Frank brought news. High-end plastic surgery can make faces look similar, but it can't replicate the exact placement of scars or moles. And there's a limit to how well someone can imitate a voice. What if it was a twin? Frank shook his head. Mary is an only child. We all know that. I decided not to show my feelings for now and to keep observing. A week later, Mary's mother came to my house with astonishing news. George, Mary is going to have a baby, my mother-in-law told me excitedly. I stood there stunned. Before we got married, Mary had been diagnosed with uterine hypoplasia. The doctor had made it clear she could never get pregnant. This was our shared secret. Not even my mother-in-law knew. How do you know that? I managed to ask. Mary told me this morning. She said she already had a checkup. It's been 2 months. My mother-in-law happily grabbed my hand. It's a blessing from above. Mary survived death, and now she can bring us new life. My heart sank to the bottom. This absolutely could not be Mary. That night, I dug out the hospital's diagnosis certificate in my study, which clearly stated the condition of Mary's uterus. But when I wanted to talk to Mary about it, I found her in the bedroom, excitedly discussing the decoration of the nursery with my mother-in-law. "Mary, could you come here for a moment?" I called her calmly. She followed me into the study, still wearing a blissful smile on her face. "Did you forget about this?" I handed her the diagnosis certificate. She took it and glanced at it, her face instantly turning pale. "George, I can explain." "Explain what?" "Explain that you're not Mary at all." Mother-in-law heard the commotion and walked in. "What's going on with you two?" "Mom, take a look at this." I handed her the proof. My mother-in-law read it, then looked at Mary in astonishment. "What's going on?" "Mary, you can't have children." "Of course she can," I sneered, "because she's not Mary at all." My mother-in-law's face changed dramatically. "What nonsense are you talking about?" "I can explain." She hurriedly grabbed my mother-in-law's hand. "That old Chinese doctor not only saved my life, but also cured my uterine problem. It's a miracle, truly." My mother-in-law looked at me, then at her, hesitating. "George, you're being too paranoid." My mother-in-law finally took her daughter's side. "Mary has come back with great difficulty. You should cherish her, not doubt her." "Yes, George, I know this is hard to accept, but miracles do happen." Tears welled up in her eyes. "Haven't we always wanted a child? Now we can finally have our own baby." I looked at her face, identical to Mary's, yet I became more certain in my heart. This woman was not my wife. "All right, I believe you." I smiled, deciding to go along with their story for now. Let's wait together for this miracle to happen. That night, I secretly contacted a private detective. My mother-in-law gladly accepted her daughter's explanation, even suggesting she move in with us to take care of Mary during her pregnancy. Outwardly, I agreed, but inside I grew even more wary. This was no coincidence. There had to be some kind of plot. "Mom, haven't you always lived in Haicheng? Won't it be hard to get used to living here?" I probed cautiously. "For my grandson, I'm willing to endure any inconvenience," my mother-in-law said firmly. I noticed a fleeting unnatural expression on Mary's face. Could the truth be connected to my mother-in-law? On the third day after my mother-in-law moved in, I discovered more suspicious details. For example, the real Mary never drank coffee, but she and my mother-in-law often enjoyed it together. Also, Mary's favorite movie was Roman Holiday, but she claimed to prefer Titanic. The strangest thing is, Mary used to despise her cousin Tom when she was alive, but now he visits frequently and chats and laughs with Mary as if they're old friends. I told Frank about these discoveries. "Buddy, things are getting more and more suspicious," Frank frowned. "Are you sure you want to keep going like this? Why not just expose her directly?" "It's not the right time yet. I want to find out what they're really after." The private detective's investigation also made progress. The so-called old Chinese doctor who had saved Mary did not exist at all, and Mary's whereabouts over the past 3 years were completely untraceable. More importantly, the private detective uncovered a shocking fact during the investigation. Mary's cousin Tom was deeply in debt from gambling, and the painting Eternity under my name, worth over $6 million, was his only hope for quick cash. "They're after your painting," the private detective asserted, "and this fake Mary is likely a professional identity fraudster, hired to win your trust." I took a deep breath and decided to take the initiative. That afternoon, I pretended to go out, but secretly returned home and hid in the study. Sure enough, Mary and her cousin Tom were whispering to each other in the living room. "It's taking too long," Tom said irritably. "How much longer until he sells the painting?" "Don't worry," she soothed him. "I'm already pregnant, and now he completely believes I'm Mary. In a little while, I'll say I want to move to a better neighborhood for the sake of the baby, and then we'll naturally need to sell the painting to raise money." "You're really pregnant?" "That wasn't part of the plan. It was an accident, but it works to our advantage. George wants a child so badly." "Does Annie know the truth?" "She only knows we're trying to scam money, not the specific plan. But she hates George, thinks he caused her daughter's death, so she's more than happy to help." I clenched my fists. So my mother-in-law had always believed that Mary's accident was somehow my fault. In fact, we did argue over something trivial that day, and Mary stormed out in anger. I didn't try to stop her. But I never imagined it would be the last time I'd see her. "You don't actually have feelings for George, do you?" Tom suddenly asked. She was silent for a moment. "It's just part of the job. Besides, I owe you, and I won't go back on my word." "Good then. Don't forget how we're splitting the money once we get it." Their conversation confirmed my suspicions. This was all an elaborate scheme, with my eternity as the target. In the days that followed, I pretended everything was normal while secretly making preparations. I contacted the police, arranged for evidence-gathering equipment, and found the last piece Mary had left before she died, a silver necklace that had never been made public, engraved with an anniversary date only the two of us knew. 2 weeks later, my art exhibition was held as scheduled. As planned, Mary brought up the idea of moving, hinting that I could sell eternity. I pretended to agree and said I would auction the painting on the last day of the exhibition. "This is a surprise I prepared for you," I said on the eve of the exhibition, taking out a delicate box. "To celebrate the new life we're about to begin." She opened the box in surprise, and inside was the silver necklace. "It's beautiful, thank you." She smiled as she prepared to put it on. "Wait," I stopped her. "Aren't you going to look at the engraving on the back?" She turned the necklace over, and her face suddenly went pale. "What's wrong? Don't you like it?" I asked, feigning ignorance. "No, I really like it. It's just, I'm a bit moved." She forced a smile, but didn't know how to explain that she couldn't recognize the significance of that date. "See you tomorrow. Get some good rest, and don't forget to wear this necklace." I kissed her forehead and whispered in her ear, "After all, this is your final design." Her body visibly stiffened for a moment, but she kept smiling. "Of course, I cherish it very much. Tomorrow, the truth will come to light." On the day of the exhibition, the place was packed with people. My painting, Eternity, was displayed in the most prominent spot, right next to the last batch of jewelry designs Mary had created before her death. Mary held my arm, flawlessly playing the role of my wife as always. She had even gone out of her way to wear Mary's favorite white dress and the silver necklace I had given her last night. My mother-in-law and Tom were there too. The three of them exchanged glances from time to time, clearly waiting for the perfect moment. Frank appeared as planned, pretending to be extremely interested in Eternity and asking me about the auction details. "The auction will begin promptly at 4 in the afternoon, I replied with a smile. "This painting means a great deal to me, and I hope it finds someone who truly appreciates it." Mary immediately chimed in. "Yes, although it's hard to part with it, this is a necessary decision for our future." I noticed she glanced at Tom, who gave a barely perceptible nod. At 3:30 in the afternoon, the projector in the center of the exhibition hall lit up. This was the special segment I had arranged. "Ladies and gentlemen, I stood in front of Eternity. Before the auction begins, I'd like to share a little story about this painting." Mary's photo appeared on the projection screen, a group picture from her last birthday party before she passed away. 3 years ago, my wife Mary died in an accident. I created this painting, Eternity, in her memory. The woman in the painting has her back to the viewer, forever gazing into the distance, symbolizing a longing I can never reach. A soft sigh rippled through the crowd. Mary stood beside me, matching my words with a sorrowful expression. However, a month ago, a miracle happened. I turned to look at Mary. My wife came back. The whole room erupted in astonishment, and many people curiously sized up, "Mary. This is my wife, Mary." I took her hand and stepped forward. "Back from the dead, it's truly the greatest blessing heaven could have given me." She smiled and nodded to everyone, while my mother-in-law and Tom stood by with smug expressions. However, my tone suddenly shifted. Amidst my joy, a question arose. "Is she really Mary?" The entire room fell silent. Mary's hand trembled slightly in my palm. So, I did some investigating. The projector switched to a set of comparison photos. On the left was the real Mary. On the right was a photo of her. They look exactly the same, don't they? But I clicked the remote, and the photo was enlarged, the details highlighted. The position of the piercing on the left ear was slightly different, the arch of the eyebrows subtly varied, and the fine lines at the corners of the eyes ran in different directions. These are details that even professional plastic surgery cannot fully replicate. Mary tried to pull her hand away, but I held on tightly. My mother-in-law and Tom also began to grow anxious, glancing toward the exit. More importantly, the real Mary has a feature that cannot be copied. I turned to Mary. "The necklace I gave you last night has a date engraved on the back. Can you tell everyone what that date is?" She opened her mouth, but no words came out. "That was the due date of our first child, the one we lost." I spoke softly, my voice trembling with emotion. "Mary designed this necklace to commemorate the baby we never got to meet. The date was our secret, only Mary and I knew. The room fell utterly silent. Mary turned deathly pale, my mother-in-law's eyes widened, and Tom had already started edging toward the door. What surprised me even more, I continued, was that the real Mary could never get pregnant due to an underdeveloped uterus. Yet this, Mary claims she's already 2 months along. I let go of her hand and took a step back. So, who are you really? A flicker of despair flashed in Mary's eyes, but she quickly regained her composure. I am Mary, it's just that old Chinese doctor. The non-existent old Chinese doctor, right? I sneered. Just like the non-existent amnesia, the non-existent miraculous recovery. I turned toward the projection screen. Let's see the truth. The screen played the secretly recorded video of her conversation with Tom, their discussion on how to swindle eternity, clearly audible. This isn't. She tried to explain, but my mother-in-law had already rushed forward. Who are you really? My mother-in-law screamed. You're not my daughter? Auntie, stop pretending, I said calmly. You know she's not Mary. You just wanted to get back at me, didn't you? My mother-in-law's face turned pale. I didn't know she was going to impersonate Mary. Tom just said he needed help to scam some money. Police. Don't move. Several plainclothes officers emerged from the crowd, blocking Tom as he tried to escape. Amid the chaos, Mary took the opportunity to shove me aside and run toward the exit. I chased after her and caught up in the parking lot. Tell me, who are you really? She finally stopped, turned to face me, tears welling in her eyes. My name is Luna. I'm an actress. Tom found me and said if I helped trick you out of a painting, he'd give me $1 million. I needed the money for my sister's medical treatment. Why did they choose me? Why Mary? She shook her head. I don't know. They gave me a lot of information, photos, videos, even your chat logs. I was just following the script. The police arrived and took her away. I stood where I was, gazing at the distant sky, my heart a tumult of emotions. Back in the exhibition hall, the crowd had already dispersed, leaving only Frank and a few police officers. It's all been cleared up, Frank walked over. Tom owed money to loan sharks and was desperate. Your mother-in-law always resented you for not saving Mary, so she helped them plan the whole thing. I walked up to eternity, gently caressing the back of the woman in the painting. Mary, I can finally give you an answer. The police left with the evidence. Frank patted me on the shoulder. What do you plan to do next? I took a deep breath. Prepare for the final painting. What will it be called? The Pursuit, I said softly. This time, I'll paint her face, not just her back. After the case was solved, my life seemed to return to where it was 3 years ago. Eternity was temporarily held by the court as crucial evidence. Tom and Luna were arrested for fraud, and my mother-in-law was investigated as an accomplice. The prosecution wants you to testify in court, the officer called to inform me. The trial is scheduled for early next month. I agreed, though I was utterly exhausted inside. After exposing the deception, I thought I would feel the thrill of revenge, but what I felt instead was a profound emptiness. Those days spent with Mary that month had allowed me to feel a trace of warmth in life again, even if that warmth was born of lies. Frank often came to see me, worried I might fall into despair once more. I told him not to worry, that I was working on a new piece, The Pursuit. Are you really going to paint Mary's face from the front? Frank asked curiously. For the past 3 years, you've always refused to do that. It's time, I replied. We can't live in the past forever. I moved out of the apartment I had shared with Mary and returned to the old house in the suburbs, the place where the real Mary and I had first made our home. The dust-laden memories in the house brought me both pain and comfort. Mary's studio remained just as she had left it, design sketches scattered across the table, unfinished jewelry drafts pinned to the drawing board. One afternoon, while sorting through Mary's belongings, I discovered an encrypted external hard drive. After several attempts, I finally unlocked it using our wedding anniversary as the password. Inside were backups of Mary's design works, along with some personal photos and videos. One folder in particular caught my attention. Inside a folder named Plan was a series of jewelry design sketches, labeled George's Birthday Special Project. It was then I remembered that, in the months before Mary passed away, she often spoke mysteriously about giving me an unparalleled birthday surprise. Leafing through these design drafts, I couldn't help but be moved to tears. Mary had planned to design a jewelry collection inspired by my paintings over the years, with each piece corresponding to a representative work from my artistic career. The last page was a sketch of a ring, with a dark red stone set in the center, its edges adorned with tiny diamonds, closely resembling the sunrise in my early work, Dawn. This is blood amber? I examined the notes carefully, confirming the name of this rare gemstone. Mary's designs had always been bold, but blood amber is extremely rare in the Chinese market, almost impossible to acquire. How did she obtain such a material? As I continued searching, I found a series of email correspondence screenshots. Mary had actually contacted a gemstone dealer in Myanmar, commissioning the blood amber specifically for this ring. The last email showed that the gem had already been shipped, but the date was exactly 1 week before Mary's death. I immediately called Frank. Help me check if there was a package sent from Myanmar 3 years ago, addressed to Mary. 2 days later, Frank brought news. The package did exist, but since no one signed for it, it was returned. However, according to the shipping records, it was resent a month ago, this time addressed to you. What? I was completely confused. I haven't received any package. Check your old apartment? Frank suggested. Back at my old apartment, the manager told me there was indeed a package, but it had been signed for by Mary. She said it was a surprise for you, so she didn't notify you, the manager explained. This meant Luna had taken the blood amber. I rushed to the detention center and requested to see Luna. Separated by glass, she looked much more haggard than the last time we met, but still wore that face so similar to Mary's. What are you doing here? She asked coldly. A month ago, you signed for a package from Myanmar. There was a blood amber inside. I want to know where it is. She looked surprised. How did you know? Tom asked me to sign for it. He said it was some precious gem. He took it. My heart sank. Tom was deep in gambling debt. A precious blood amber would be a windfall for him. He had probably sold it long ago. That blood amber is very important to me, I said softly. It was the last gift my wife left me. Luna was silent for a moment, then suddenly said, maybe it's not that bad. Tom said the stone has flaws, its value is greatly reduced, and he hasn't found a suitable buyer yet. Hope was rekindled. If Tom hadn't sold the blood amber yet, maybe there was still a chance to get it back. Do you know where he might hide it? Luna hesitated for a moment. He has a safe deposit box in a self-storage facility on the east side of the city. After getting the address, I immediately contacted the officer in charge of the case and explained the situation. Since Tom was involved in a large sum of money, the police quickly approved the search request. Mr. George, we've found the safe deposit box, the officer said over the phone. Inside, we did find the blood amber you described, as well as some other evidence. A few hours later, I retrieved the blood amber at the police station. It was even more beautiful than I had imagined. Within the dark red core, wisps of mist seemed to swirl, shifting strangely under the light. This was the birthday gift Mary had so carefully chosen for me, waiting for 3 years. Back home, I carefully placed the blood amber beside the canvas of the pursuit. The painting was already more than half finished, Mary's face emerging from the blur into clarity, yet it still felt like something was missing. Watching the blood amber glimmer faintly under the light, I suddenly understood how I should complete the painting. The creation of the pursuit entered its final stage. I decided to break convention and incorporate the blood amber into the artwork. This would not only be a portrait, but a hybrid piece that fused painting with the art of jewelry. Are you sure you want to do this? Frank frowned. That blood amber is priceless. That's exactly why, I said firmly. Mary chose it for me. She wanted to inspire an unparalleled masterpiece. I will fulfill her wish. For 2 whole weeks, I worked day and night, neglecting sleep and food. I cut the blood amber into thin slices and inlaid them at the spot of Mary's eyes on the canvas, making her gaze truly come alive. I used a special technique to blend the surrounding paint, creating a harmonious transition with the gemstone. From certain angles, the entire painting seemed to be imbued with life, and Mary's expression would shift depending on where the viewer stood. On the day I finished the piece, Frank brought news. Luna had been sentenced to 3 years in prison, but due to her good attitude in confessing, she might serve only 1.5 years. Tom, involved in multiple fraud cases, was sentenced to 7 years. My mother-in-law, as an accomplice, received a suspended sentence. The case is finally over, Frank said. Are you planning to exhibit your painting? Yes. Next month there will be a solo exhibition at the National Art Museum, and The Pursuit will be the grand finale. The curator couldn't stop praising this piece. believing it represents the innovative direction of contemporary art and marks the pinnacle of my career. Indeed, this painting, which incorporates Mary's jewelry design concepts, is in some sense a creation we made together. On the eve of the exhibition, I checked the arrangement in the gallery alone one last time, making sure every piece was perfectly lit and positioned. When I reached The Pursuit, I couldn't help but stop and gaze at it. Mary's face was vividly lifelike, her eyes inlaid with blood amber gleaming under the spotlight, as if she were smiling at me. For the first time in 3 years, I faced her directly, no longer painting only her back. "Mr. George," a stranger's voice called from behind. "Sorry to disturb you, but the gallery has been cleared." He turned around to see a young woman dressed in the museum's staff uniform. "And you are?" "I'm the new curator, responsible for security in your exhibition area," she explained with a smile. "I really like your work, especially this piece, The Pursuit." "Thank you." I nodded. "I'll be leaving soon." She didn't leave, but continued to gaze at the painting. "That red gem is beautiful, almost as if it's alive." "It's blood amber," I explained, "a very rare gemstone." "I know," she said softly, "top-grade blood amber from Myanmar, containing plant fossils, extremely rare." I looked at her in surprise. "You know a lot about jewelry?" She smiled. "I studied jewelry design. I'm just working part-time here." For some reason, Mary suddenly came to mind. She, too, had an almost obsessive passion for and expertise in gemstones. "If you don't mind me asking, who is the woman in this painting?" she asked. "My wife," I replied. "She passed away 3 years ago. She was a jewelry designer." "I'm very sorry," she said sincerely, then gestured toward the blood amber. "This gem must mean a great deal to you. It was the last birthday gift she chose for me before she died, but I only found it recently." She nodded thoughtfully. "Setting it into her portrait is the best way to remember her." For some reason, talking with this unfamiliar woman brought me a strange sense of calm. Perhaps it was her love for jewelry that reminded me of Mary. "Sorry, I have to continue my rounds." She glanced at her watch. "See you tomorrow, Mr. George." "See you tomorrow," I replied, watching her leave. On the way home, I felt an unusual peace. The completion of The Pursuit seemed to mark the end of my search for Mary as well. Not forgetting, but remembering her forever in another way. The next day, the exhibition's opening ceremony attracted numerous figures from the art world and the media. The Pursuit undoubtedly became the center of attention, with people marveling at this innovative form of artistic expression. Amid the crowd, I noticed that curator standing aside, watching as well. Sunlight streamed through the skylight of the gallery, falling upon her, and for a fleeting moment, I thought I saw Mary's shadow. No, I shook my head, warning myself not to be deceived by mere resemblance. There would never be another Mary in this world, just as there would never be another unique blood amber. After the exhibition, The Pursuit was purchased by an anonymous collector for an astronomical price. I donated all the proceeds to a foundation supporting students in jewelry design, establishing a scholarship in Mary's name. Life slowly moved forward, and I began to accept new commissions and create new works. Occasionally, I would think of that curator with a unique insight into jewelry, wondering if she was still working at the art museum. Until one day, I received an email from HL. There were no words, only an image. A sketch of a ring design, the style strikingly similar to Mary's unfinished series. My heart raced as I replied immediately. "Who is this?" The response came quickly. "Yesterday, you brushed past me by the cafe on the street corner, but you didn't recognize me. If you want to know more, wait for me at the museum entrance at noon tomorrow." Is it that librarian? How could she have a design so reminiscent of Mary's style? Filled with anxiety and anticipation, I decided to accept the invitation and find out for myself. The next day at noon, I arrived at the art museum half an hour early. The sun was shining, and small groups of visitors were coming and going from the exhibition hall, but there was no sign of the mysterious person. Just as I began to suspect this might be some kind of prank, a faint trace of perfume drifted by, a scent unfamiliar to me, yet it inexplicably reminded me of Mary. "Mr. George, thank you for coming." The voice behind me made me turn around. It was the curator. Today, she wasn't wearing her uniform, but a simple white dress, completely different from Mary's style when she was alive. "Did you send the email?" I asked directly. She nodded. "There are some things I want to tell you, but not here. Will you come with me?" We walked through the small park beside the art museum and arrived at a secluded cafe. The whole time, I kept observing her. Her mannerisms, the way she walked, none of it resembled Mary. Yet her sensitivity to detail and her focused attention gave me a strange sense of familiarity. Who are you, really? The moment we sat down, I couldn't wait to ask. My name is Nicole. She looked me straight in the eye. I'm Mary's student. This answer caught me off guard. Mary had indeed taught jewelry design part-time at the Design Academy before she passed away, but she had never mentioned having any particularly close students. I took her advanced design class the year before she passed, Nicole explained. Her guidance benefited me for a lifetime. That still doesn't explain why your designs resemble her style so much, I said, half convinced. Nicole took a folder out of her bag. These are all notes from Ms. Nicole's class and her feedback on my work. You can look at the handwriting and confirm that it's really hers. I carefully examined the materials. It was indeed Mary's handwriting. There were even traces of the pale purple ink she habitually used. Before Ms. Nicole passed away, she was guiding me on my graduation project, Nicole continued. The theme was interwoven light and shadow, blending Eastern and Western aesthetic elements. She gave me a lot of valuable advice, and even showed me a sketch from a private project she was working on at the time. George's special birthday project? I blurted out. Nicole's eyes widened in surprise. You know about it? I only found out recently. I briefly explained the origin of the blood amber. I knew that blood amber would eventually find its way back to you, Nicole said with a smile. Nicole always said it was a destined gift. Is that why you contacted me? Because you saw the blood amber? Nicole was silent for a moment, as if choosing her words carefully. Not entirely. After Nicole passed away, I've been trying to carry on the design philosophy she taught me. Some time ago, I happened to see the news about your eternity being stolen, and then I saw someone impersonating Nicole. I thought I should tell you a few things. She took a letter out of her bag. This is the last letter Nicole gave me after class before she passed away. She said if her surprise plan went smoothly, I should show you this letter. If anything went wrong and she was gone, I should still make sure you see it. I took the envelope. It was indeed Mary's handwriting, and it read, "To my dearest husband." The envelope had already been opened. I didn't know what was in the letter at the time. I just kept it as Nicole instructed, Nicole explained. It wasn't until I saw the news that I opened it. I hope you won't blame me. I carefully took out the letter paper and unfolded it to read. Dear George, if you are reading this letter, perhaps my surprise plan has gone awry. Don't worry, it's just that the plan has changed, and the form of the gift may be different now. The blood amber I picked for you is said to be known as the Eye of Rebirth. Legend has it that looking at the world through it reveals truths that are often overlooked. I hope it can become a turning point in your artistic career, leading you to see new possibilities. All these years, your paintings have always depicted backs, as if you're afraid to face something head-on. I hope this gemstone will give you the courage to paint the front, to capture true emotions. No matter what happens, please remember, love does not disappear, it merely changes form, like this blood amber, which, after millions of years, transforms from resin into a gem, yet still shines. Forever loving you, Mary. The handwriting became a bit messy at the end, as if written in a hurry. I stroked the paper, as if I could feel Mary's emotions at that moment. Thank you, I said, my voice choked with emotion. This means a lot to me. You're welcome. I'm just fulfilling Ms. Nicole's request, Nicole said with a smile. Actually, there's one more thing I'd like to ask your help with. What is it? I'd like to apply for the Mary Scholarship you established, she said, taking a design portfolio out of her bag. This is my graduation project, combining Ms. Nicole's ideas with my own innovations. As I flipped through the portfolio, I was surprised to find that while these designs bore traces of Mary's influence, they also possessed a unique style and innovative touches. In particular, a series called Metamorphosis cleverly combined jewelry with transformable elements, allowing the pieces to change form according to the wearer's mood and occasion. This is outstanding, I praised sincerely. Mary would be proud of you. A hint of joy flashed in Nicole's eyes. Really? I've always worried I couldn't live up to her expectations. You've already moved beyond the learning stage and developed your own style. That's exactly what she hoped to see. As we talked, sunlight streamed through the window and fell on Nicole. In that moment, I seemed to understand something. When Mary spoke of love changing its form, perhaps she wasn't just referring to the blood amber, but also to her passion for art and its legacy. Luna tried to impersonate Mary by mimicking her appearance, but she could never truly replicate who she was. Nicole, on the other hand, looked nothing like Mary, yet she inherited a part of her artistic vision and spirit. Perhaps this is the true gift Mary left me, not the blood amber, but a new possibility, a path out of the past. Nicole's graduation exhibition was held in a small gallery. Though the space was modest, it was exquisitely arranged. Her works were divided into 3 series, representing the past, the present, and the future, forming a complete narrative. This is a brilliant idea, I sincerely praised. From tradition to contemporary and then to the future, it showcases the evolution and possibilities of jewelry design. Nicole smiled and nodded. This was inspired by teacher Nicole. She always says that good design should look back at history, be grounded in the present, and look forward to the future. As I walked through the exhibition hall, I noticed a special display case in the corner, containing only one piece, a seemingly simple ring with a small red gemstone set in the center. This is. I leaned in to read the label, which said, "In memory, dedicated to teacher Mary." Yes, I made it from a small piece of blood amber I bought with my own savings, Nicole explained. It can't compare to the quality of yours, but it's also from Myanmar. I examined the design of the ring closely. Clean, powerful lines with fine silver threads encircling the blood amber, as if protecting the central gem, yet also seeming to radiate light outward. This is very similar to Mary's final design style, I said softly, but it also has your own unique touch. I wanted to create a piece that could both commemorate teacher Nicole and showcase my own style, Nicole explained. The blood amber represents her influence, while the outer design is the direction of my own development. The exhibition attracted quite a few industry insiders, including some well-known figures from the jewelry design world. After viewing the exhibition, an older female designer approached Nicole and offered her an internship opportunity. I stood by, genuinely happy for Nicole. In the evening, as the exhibition was drawing to a close, Frank arrived as well. Seeing me with Nicole, he gave me a knowing smile. "New friend?" he asked me quietly. "Mary's student," I explained simply. "Very talented." Frank nodded without asking further questions. After touring the exhibition, he gave high praise to Nicole's work. It blends traditional and modern elements, demonstrating both technical skill and artistic expression, quite rare. Nicole thanked him politely. This wouldn't have been possible without the guidance of teacher Nicole and teacher George. After the exhibition, the 3 of us went to a nearby restaurant for dinner. During the meal, Frank talked about recent trends in the art market, while Nicole shared her insights on contemporary jewelry design. The conversation was light and pleasant, and I realized it had been a long time since I had relaxed and chatted with others like this. After a few rounds of drinks, Frank received an urgent call and left early. Only Nicole and I remained in the restaurant, and the atmosphere suddenly became a bit quiet. "Mr. George," Nicole hesitated for a moment before speaking. "I've always had a question I wanted to ask you." "What is it?" "After you finished The Pursuit, what are you planning to create next?" The question caught me off guard. To be honest, ever since The Pursuit, I haven't had any new inspiration. That painting seemed to have drained all my emotions and creativity. "I haven't decided yet," I answered honestly. "It might take some time to find a new direction." Nicole nodded thoughtfully. Nicole once said that the hardest thing for an artist isn't creating a stunning masterpiece, but finding a way forward after reaching the peak. She really did say that, I recalled with a smile. Mary always saw further than I did. "Maybe," Nicole said softly, "you could try a new direction that combines your work with jewelry design, like in The Pursuit, but taking it even further." I recalled what Mary mentioned in her letter about seeing new possibilities, and suddenly I was inspired. "You mean creating a series of works that combine painting and jewelry?" "Exactly," Nicole said excitedly. "Your paintings create emotion in 2-dimensional space, while jewelry gives it tangible form in the 3-dimensional world. The combination of the two would have an astonishing effect." The more we talked, the more engaged we became, even sketching a few concept designs on the restaurant's napkins. Nicole's ideas were fresh and bold, perfectly aligning with my artistic vision, yet bringing a new perspective. As we left the restaurant, Nicole suddenly said, "I have to confess something." I looked at her in confusion. "I reached out to you not only to deliver Nicole's letter, but also for a personal reason. I hope to learn from you," she said candidly. I want to become a designer like Nicole, someone who not only creates beautiful works but also perfectly blends art with emotion. Her sincerity moved me. You're already on that path, and you're doing very well. Then, may I consult you often? She asked a little nervously. Of course, I'd be delighted. On the way home, a series of new works already began to take shape in my mind. A cross-disciplinary art that fuses painting and jewelry, both as a tribute to Mary and as a new starting point in my artistic career. That night, I had a dream. In the dream, Mary stood in a halo of blood-red light, smiling at me and saying, "See, I knew you would find a new direction." When I woke up, I got out of bed immediately and began sketching for the new series. I decided to name it Rebirth. Not only representing the ancient life forever preserved in blood amber, but also symbolizing the rebirth of my artistic career, as well as the inheritance and development of Mary's artistic vision. A week later, I submitted a new series proposal to the gallery and received an enthusiastic response. The curator even suggested holding a special exhibition themed Between Dimensions, a dialogue between painting and jewelry. For this project, I invited Nicole to join the team as a jewelry design consultant. She had just graduated from design school and was both excited and nervous about the opportunity. "Am I really up to the task?" she asked me in the studio. "You understand Mary's design philosophy better than anyone," I assured her. "That's exactly what I need." In the days that followed, we worked at a feverish pace. We created during the day and discussed at night, sometimes even working through until dawn. Nicole's ideas flowed endlessly, and I transformed those thoughts into concrete artistic expressions. In the process, I rediscovered the pure joy of creation that I hadn't felt in a long time. One late night, when we finally finished the design for our first piece, Nicole clapped her hands excitedly. "This is amazing. Teacher Nicole will definitely love it." At the mention of Mary, she suddenly realized her slip and looked at me nervously. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to." "It's all right," I said with a smile. "I think Mary really would like it. She always hoped I could step out of my comfort zone and try new ways of expressing myself." Nicole let out a sigh of relief, then hesitantly asked, "Professor George, may I ask you a personal question?" "What is it?" "When you faced the woman impersonating Professor Nicole, how did you see through her? I mean, from the news reports, she seemed like an exact copy of Professor Nicole." I pondered for a moment. Superficial resemblance is easy to achieve, but a true personality cannot be duplicated. Mary's perception of art, her attitude toward life, the way she handled details, these were all unique. Just like a work of art, Nicole mused, no matter how perfect a replica is, it can never capture the soul of the original. Exactly. We worked through the night again, and finally established the overall framework for the Rebirth series. 7 pieces, each blending elements of painting and jewelry, together telling a story of loss and recovery, death and rebirth. As our collaboration deepened, my relationship with Nicole gradually shifted from teacher and student to partners, both mentor and friend. Sometimes, when the light traced the gentle contours of her focused profile, I would unconsciously think of Mary. But soon, I realized that this association wasn't due to any physical resemblance, but rather that same dedication and passion for art. "George, you look much more spirited lately," Frank remarked at a gathering. "It's been a while since I've seen you so full of life." "Yeah, the new project has helped me rediscover the joy of creating." "Nicole's a good girl," Frank said meaningfully. "Talented, and she really understands you." I understood his implication, but just smiled without responding. There was indeed a special understanding between Nicole and me, but it was more rooted in our shared passion for art than anything else. At least for now. The creation of the Rebirth series took 3 months, longer than expected, but the results were stunning. Each piece was a perfect fusion of painting and jewelry art, offering both the pleasure of viewing as a flat image and the discovery of 3-dimensional effects brought by the jewelry elements from different angles. A week before the exhibition opened, I received an unexpected visitor, Luna. She had served her sentence and was released early. She looked much more haggard than the last time we met, but her eyes were clearer. "I came to apologize to you in person." She stood at the studio door, her voice low, "for everything I have done." I didn't respond immediately, but simply invited her in to sit down. "I know that an apology can't make up for the loss," she continued, but I want you to know that I truly regret it. How is your sister's illness? I asked. She looked up in surprise. You know. I guessed. You said you needed money for a reason, and I think that must have been true. Yes, she nodded. My sister's surgery was a success, and now she's fully recovered. For the past 3 years, I've been thinking about how to make up for my mistakes. Even though I may never be able to. I was silent for a moment, then said, in a way, your appearance actually helped me. What do you mean? It forced me to confront the past, to re-examine my memories with Mary, and ultimately to find a way forward. I pointed to the sketches of the Rebirth series on the wall and briefly explained this new project. Luna listened quietly, a look of genuine respect in her eyes. I'm glad you were able to find a new beginning from that nightmare, she said at last. I hope I can find my own path to rebirth as well. As she left, she handed me a small package. These are some simple pieces of jewelry I made in prison. The craftsmanship is rough, but each one represents my remorse and blessings. I hope you can accept them. Opening the package, I found several small trinkets handmade from fine wire and colorful glass beads. Though simple, it was clear the creator had poured their heart into them. Nicole happened to come into the studio at that moment. Seeing the trinkets, she asked curiously, "What are these?" I told her about Luna's visit. You forgave her? Nicole was a bit surprised. Not exactly forgiveness. I said thoughtfully, it's more like understanding. Everyone has their own hardships and choices. What's important is how we learn and grow from our mistakes. Nicole nodded pensively, picking up a piece of jewelry to examine it closely. The craftsmanship is rough, but the concept is ingenious. This person seems to have a talent for design. Perhaps, I said, everyone has the possibility of being reborn. On the day of the exhibition opening, numerous figures from the art and jewelry worlds gathered together. The Rebirth series received unprecedented acclaim. Critics called it a model of cross-disciplinary art, and the gallery owner was overjoyed, announcing plans for a nationwide tour. In the crowd, I saw Luna. She was dressed simply, standing quietly in a corner, admiring the exhibits. Our eyes met in the air. She nodded slightly, then walked away. Who was that? Nicole asked, standing beside me. Someone searching for rebirth, I replied. Nicole seemed to understand and asked no more. We stood side by side before the pursuit, watching the blood amber refract a strange light under the lamps, like the silent burning of life's flame. Thank you, I whispered to Nicole. Without you, this series might never have come into being. It was your philosophy that guided us, teacher Nicole, she replied modestly. I was just fortunate enough to be the messenger. In that moment, I suddenly understood the true meaning of what Mary had written in her letter. Love has changed its form. Love exists not only in memory and longing, but also in inheritance and innovation, shining brightly in every spark of artistic creation. And I, at last, had learned how to begin anew after loss, to embrace rebirth while still searching. The success of the exhibition exceeded everyone's expectations. In just 1 month, the Rebirth series was reported on by major media outlets and even attracted the attention of the international art world. A renowned auction house extended an olive branch to me, hoping to include several pieces in their annual highlight auction. This is an unprecedented opportunity, Frank said excitedly. If the deal goes through, you'll become a top player in the contemporary art market. I wasn't particularly concerned with commercial success, but I did feel the joy of having my work widely recognized. More importantly, this series opened up a new artistic path for me, freeing me from the creative shackles of the past 3 years. Nicole benefited as well. As the project's jewelry design consultant, she received high praise from the industry. Several well-known jewelry brands reached out to her, hoping she would join their design teams. Which offer are you planning to accept? One night, as we were tidying up the studio together, I asked her. To be honest, I'm still hesitating. Nicole paused her work. These are all great opportunities, but what? But I want to keep working with you. She looked straight into my eyes. Rebirth is just the beginning, isn't it? Her candor surprised me a little. Indeed, the success of this series had opened up many new creative possibilities for us, but I wasn't sure if I should continue such a close working relationship. You should consider your own career development, I said tactfully. These opportunities are very rare for young designers. Nicole seemed to sense my hesitation and nodded gently. I understand. In the days that followed, We were both busy and rarely had the chance to talk alone. A week later, Nicole told me she had decided to accept an invitation from a French jewelry brand and would be going to Paris to work for 2 years. "Congratulations," I said sincerely. "It's a very good choice." "Thank you," she replied with a smile, though a fleeting, elusive emotion flashed in her eyes. "I think this is the best arrangement for both of us." Before Nicole left, we held a small farewell party. Frank, the curator, and a few mutual friends came. The atmosphere was warm, tinged with a hint of sadness. After a few rounds of drinks, Frank found an opportunity to pull me aside. "Are you really going to just let her go like this?" "What do you mean?" I pretended not to understand. "Don't play dumb, man," Frank said bluntly. "You have feelings for her. That's obvious." "That's just professional rapport," I argued. "Is that so?" Frank looked at me meaningfully. "Then why have you been so distracted ever since she decided to go to France?" I was at a loss for words. In fact, these past few days I had indeed felt an inexplicable sense of loss, but I kept telling myself it was only because I had lost an excellent partner. "I know what you're worried about," Frank lowered his voice. "You feel like you're letting Mary down, don't you?" I remained silent. He had touched upon the deepest concern in my heart. "Mary has been gone for 3 years now." Frank gently patted my shoulder. "She would want you to be happy." After the party ended, I walked Nicole home. The night was tranquil as water, and the city lights flowed around us. "Thank you for your help and guidance these past few months." Nicole stopped at the entrance of her apartment building. "This experience has meant so much to me." "I should be thanking you," I said sincerely. "Without you, the Rebirth series would never have been completed." We fell into silence, as if both searching for the right words to say goodbye. "My flight is the morning after tomorrow," Nicole finally said. "I still have some things to take care of tomorrow. So, this is probably the last time we'll see each other. 2 years will pass quickly." I tried to make my voice sound light. "Paris is a beautiful city. You'll like it there." She nodded, a complex emotion flickering in her eyes. "Professor George, there's something I've always wanted to tell you, but never found the right opportunity." "What is it?" "I chose to study jewelry design because I saw Nicole's works." She took a deep breath, or more precisely, because I saw the pieces Nicole designed for you. The way she perfectly fused love and art moved me deeply. "I didn't know that," I said in surprise. "I've always hoped that one day I could be like Nicole, creating art filled with emotion." Nicole continued, her words coming faster, as if afraid she might lose her courage. "But now I realize that what I want even more is to create for a specific person, just like Nicole created for you." I understood her implication, and my heart suddenly began to race. "Nicole, please don't respond," she gently interrupted me. "I just wanted you to know before I leave. No matter how you feel right now, remember that starting over is not a betrayal of the past, but a way of cherishing life." With that, she rose up on her tiptoes and softly kissed my cheek, then quickly turned and walked into the apartment building, leaving me standing alone in the night, my mind in turmoil. After returning home, I tossed and turned, unable to sleep, replaying Nicole's words and that gentle kiss over and over in my mind. Suddenly, I remembered a small box in the study, where Mary's last complete letter was kept, a letter I had found while sorting through her belongings. But at the time, overwhelmed by grief, I never had the courage to open. Now, I finally mustered the courage to walk into the study and retrieve that delicate little box from the depths of the drawer. Inside lay a pale pink letter, bearing Mary's familiar handwriting. "Dearest George, by the time you read this letter, you may find yourself at a crossroads in life, hesitating between moving forward or staying where you are. My greatest wish is that you can move bravely through life, as freely as your brush glides across the canvas. Love is not a shackle, but a liberation. Memory is not a burden, but a source of strength. If one day you meet someone who can rekindle the light in your eyes, please don't hesitate because of your longing for me. True love is wishing happiness for the other, even if there is no longer a place for oneself in that happiness. Remember, the days we loved each other were complete, with no need for regrets. And now, it's time to paint a new picture, my beloved. Forever loving you." Mary tears blurred my vision. It was as if Mary had foreseen my current situation and had already given me her blessing. She was always like this, always able to see further and more clearly than I could. At that moment, I made up my mind. Early the next morning, I drove straight to Nicole's apartment. "Professor George?" Nicole opened the door in surprise, clearly not expecting me. I have something to say to you. I looked her straight in the eyes, not as your teacher, but as George. I handed her Mary's letter. Nicole read it carefully, her expression shifting from surprise to being moved, and finally, her eyes grew moist. She truly was an extraordinary woman, Nicole said softly, handing the letter back to me. Yes, she was. I nodded. That's exactly why I believe her words. Nicole, cancel your plans for Paris. Stay and continue our collaboration, will you? Nicole looked at me in shock. Are you serious? I've never been more serious, I said quietly. Rebirth is not just the name of an artwork, it's a possibility in life. Are you willing to explore that possibility with me? Her answer was a firm embrace, warm and real, like the first ray of sunlight after a long winter. In that moment, I felt as if Mary was somewhere, smiling down on us, blessing this new beginning. Life is like that blood amber, enduring countless ages of change and sedimentation, ultimately transforming into an eternal radiance. And I, at last, understood what true pursuit is, what true rebirth means. A year later, Nicole and I unveiled our second joint project, Interwoven, at the National Art Museum. This series was even bolder and more innovative than Rebirth, blending Eastern and Western aesthetics with various art forms. Critics hailed it as a significant breakthrough in contemporary art. At the opening ceremony, Nicole held my arm as we faced the media interviews and congratulations from the audience together. She wore a simple white dress, and around her neck was the Eye of Rebirth necklace we designed together. She completed the jewelry part based on my painting. Your collaboration seems even more in sync than your last project, a reporter asked with a suggestive smile. Nicole glanced at me, and we exchanged a smile. Yes, both in art and in life, we've found the perfect balance. This indirect answer drew a round of good-natured laughter from the reporters present. My relationship with Nicole was no longer a secret, but we always kept a low profile, letting the public's attention remain focused on our artistic creations. After the exhibition, we drove out to a small hill in the countryside. There stood an ancient oak tree, beneath which Mary's ashes were laid to rest. This was the place we chose, rather than a traditional cemetery, natural, peaceful, just like Mary herself. Mary, the exhibition was a great success today, I said softly to the stone beneath the tree. Nicole's designs were admired by everyone, just as you once predicted. Nicole crouched down and placed a bouquet of white daisies in front of the stone. Teacher Nicole, I've been working hard to become the kind of designer you hoped I would be. I hope you can be proud of me. A gentle breeze stirred, and the oak's leaves rustled softly, as if it were Mary's reply. On the way back, Nicole suddenly said, I've been thinking about something. What is it? If that woman who pretended to be Ms. Nicole hadn't appeared, you might never have found the blood amber, never created the pursuit, and we might never have met. Her words made me fall into deep thought. Indeed, it was the series of events triggered by that deception that ultimately led to everything now. It feels as if, in the unseen, some force has been orchestrating it all. Perhaps that's the irony of fate, I said softly. Sometimes, the worst beginnings can lead us to the best endings. When I returned home, I received an unexpected package. Upon opening it, I found a delicate little box containing a handmade ring. Though simple, the craftsmanship had improved greatly compared to the pieces I had seen before. There was a note attached. Mr. George, thank you for your kindness and understanding a year ago, which gave me the courage to start over. Now I have found a job at a small jewelry shop, and my life is gradually getting back on track. This ring represents my gratitude, and I wish you happiness and well-being on your new path. Luna, I handed the ring to Nicole. After examining it carefully, she remarked, her skills have improved a lot. She truly is talent. Some mistakes in life shouldn't become permanent scars, I sighed. Everyone deserves a second chance. That night, we sat in the studio, discussing ideas for the next series. Nicole suddenly proposed a bold idea. I was thinking, maybe we could try connecting the different stages of our work to create a complete narrative. From eternity to quest, then to rebirth, and intertwined, they're actually different phases in a person's life journey. You mean? A complete story about loss, searching, rebirth, and integration, she explained excitedly, ultimately asking what is the most precious treasure in life. Love. I finished her sentence. No matter what form it takes. Nicole nodded, her eyes sparkling with creative fire. We could call it the forms of love, an unprecedented artistic exploration. Sounds like a long-term, ambitious project. We have time, she smiled, holding my hand. We have so much time. In that moment, I felt a powerful surge of creative inspiration, just like when I first began my artistic career years ago, filled with passion and possibility. But this time, I was not facing the blank canvas alone. 2 years later, the Forms of Love series was exhibited simultaneously in the world's 5 greatest art museums, causing an unprecedented sensation. Critics called it a milestone in contemporary art history, blending painting, sculpture, jewelry design, and other art forms to create an entirely new artistic language. The final piece of the exhibition was titled Eternal Ring, a massive circular canvas depicting every form of love in life, familial, platonic, romantic, and the love for art itself. The edge of the canvas was inlaid with gemstones of various sizes, and under certain lighting, these gems would cast light onto specific parts of the canvas, revealing another hidden layer of patterns. The centerpiece of this work is a massive blood amber. Through intricate optical design, the light it projects perfectly outlines 2 embracing figures. One is Mary, the other is Nicole, symbolizing the intersection of past and present, the fusion of memory and rebirth. On the closing day of the exhibition, in front of the Eternal Ring, I knelt on one knee and proposed to Nicole. The ring was crafted from the very blood amber Mary had once prepared for me, designed by my own hand and fashioned by the finest jeweler. This ring carries the memories of the past and the hopes for the future, I whispered softly. Nicole, will you be the eternal ring in my life? Her tears sparkled under the spotlight. I will. Amidst the cheers, I remembered what Mary once said. Love does not disappear. It merely changes its form. Yes, love does not disappear. It exists in memories, in art, in every rebirth and new beginning. It traverses time and crosses space, like that blood amber which, after millions of years, still shines, forever retaining the original warmth and brilliance of life. This is the answer I have been searching for all along. Between loss and gain, between seeking and rebirth, love remains constant, only appearing in different forms along the journey of life. And all we need to do is bravely accept this gift, no matter how it comes to us. On the day of the wedding, the sky was a clear, washed blue. Beneath the ancient oak tree that had watched over Mary, we exchanged our vows. A gentle breeze stirred, making the leaves whisper as if blessings were drifting in from another world. No matter when or where, Nicole said softly, we'll always remember that it was she who brought us together. Yes, I squeezed her hand, and we will always cherish this gift. In the brilliant sunlight, the blood amber ring gleamed, radiant as life itself, enduring the passage of time, yet still shining bright.